2020 Sports brought to you by Weather Seal. Get 25% off siding, including a free Polar Wrap with 5 years, 0 interest. Call 330-920-4494 or visit WeatherSealHomeservices.com. Guardians had their game last night down in Cincinnati, postponed because of rain. Contest will be made up as part of a day-night doubleheader today at Great American Ballpark this afternoon, 1:40. Slade Ciccone is going to get the start for Cleveland. He'll be taking on Chase Burns, who comes in with a record of 12-1. Then tonight, 7:10, Gavin Williams going to get the start for Cleveland. The Guardians back within 2 games of the White Sox in the AL Central, as Chicago lost to the Yankees last night 9-5. Prior to last night's rainout, Guardian skipper Stephen Vogt said the club's still determining how long a relief pitcher Sean Armstrong is going to be out of action. Armstrong suffered what the Guardians are calling a moderate to high-grade strain of his left calf during the game Saturday night against Miami. Cavaliers failed to bring back LeBron James. They still have not re-signed James Harden. However, ESPN reports that it's fully expected that Harden returns to Cleveland in the near future. ESPN also reporting the Cavs still showing interest in veteran free agent DeMar DeRozan, who was waived by Sacramento earlier this month. Browns quarterbacks and rookies back on the practice field for another workout on Monday. Meanwhile, the veterans for the Browns, they are set to report today for the start of training camp in Berea. Browns going to do their first full team practice tomorrow afternoon. The first open practice for fans to check out. That's going to happen on Friday. Can now find 92.3 The Fan on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Get the best content from our shows each and every weekday. That's 92.3 The Fan on YouTube. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas. Up next time for the Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima here on 92.3 The Fan.
All the hits, grunts, strains, and sprains. Training camp coverage like nobody else. The Afternoon Drive. Weekdays starting at 2. 92.3 The Fan. The Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima.
I can tell you, I will be booing LeBron when he makes his return. Why I will boo LeBron, someone who I cherish, and the memories and all that stuff. It's simple. This is a game at some point. There are winners and losers. And one of the things that does not go unnoticed and everybody should take inventory of is LeBron's trying to win a championship. He's trying to add to the trophy case. He's trying to win championship number 5.
And he'll try and do it at the expense of the Cavaliers now.
There. Bingo. Bingo. And once that is understood, when people understand the motivations, LeBron was not going to help the Cavs in any way if he wasn't going to the Cavs. Why? They're in the Eastern Conference. The Cavs could be competing with them. The Cavs were in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. He knows that they're not some joke of a basketball team. I know some of you want to act like that right now, but the Cavs are still good and still have potential moves to make with the Jared Allen situation hanging over them.
This is Cleveland Sports Radio, 92.3 The Fan.
All right, welcome in. Couldn't believe some of the reaction yesterday as we got a lot of those clips out on social media. It was viewed in other cities. We have city-on-city crime going on right now. Philadelphia basically doing their victory laps as they should. But apparently some beefs that are in the offing. Anthony Lima is here as Kenny continues to plot out. Has Kenny hit you up? We got Coach Riz in here. Lance Reisland is with us. He's going to be covering the Browns, covering training camp for us, for some other places. Coach, we've never worked together.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
The energy was palpable. He came in like a coach because I got to tell you, I am not fun in the morning. Ken is tough to deal with at 5:30 a.m. He's very loud. He's very boisterous. I'm normally in a shell. I'm in my cocoon. Owen, if you want
to wait for the earbud to come out, and that's when we begin the
if you want to tear down a wall here and explain it, and then Coach Riz comes in and he wants fist bumps. He wants morning affirmations. He wants to get going.
He came in, he said, "Go be great today." Right?
Yeah,
that's
it.
Those little affirmations that you got to give out.
Yeah, stuff. And I'm not a good team player. So he's trying to already coach that out. He doesn't care who was here before. You're Todd Monken in this situation. Kevin Stefanski was very low key, and now Todd Monken comes in and he wants to do some coaching. Minute one, day one. So maybe we'll see if you can get a different version out of me.
Well, it's different when you're. That's because I'm old. So when you're older, you that's the route you go. You come in, you got to have great energy, and that's exactly right. I've always kind of thought about, you're getting up early, you're doing things, but there's worse things to be doing, right? Watching the Browns, talking sports. So I always remember that when I get like these great opportunities to work with you guys, and yeah, I think energy's contagious.
But not to mention, like, I woke up in a bad mood. Why? It shouldn't have been. It rained. I was doing the rain dance yesterday. The yard needed the rain. These are the considerations.
You were talking to the neighbors about how we need this right now?
I literally was talking to my neighbor while I was on the phone with a connected source, an NBA source, trying to figure out the next move for the Cavs. And we're having a really good conversation. And then she brings out the sprinkler. And I said, wait a second. I've been monitoring this all day. It's supposed to rain tonight. Look at the percentages. It's supposed to go up to 70% at 3 a.m. Well, I wake up this morning at 3 a.m. and I'm like, yes, hallelujah. We got the rain that I needed. And then it stopped. Like 4 minutes, it stopped. There was a thunder. There was a boisterous thunder. And then it stopped. And now I'm up and I'm like, what happened? Wait a second. It was supposed to rain more than this. This is all we're getting. And so, of course, this bothered my sleep. And then I came in a bad mood because of it. All because the yard didn't get.
Well, I'll pick you up.
What I wanted it to be.
I'll pick you up with some happiness. We'll get it rolling here.
Is this sad that this is the state of affairs? Lima at 45, married, 2 kids, and I'm stressing. I have anxiety about the rain, something I have no control over. Because now I'm like, I should have had the sprinklers out.
I do think it's a little sad that you feel like you're the only one that shouldn't be going through that. I think this is a normal 45-year-old life, right? Like, you've got the kids.
It's not the life I wanted,
no.
Owen. This is never the life that I wanted.
Not South Beach and parties and jetting out of here on a Friday afternoon and returning on the red eye Monday morning to do the show.
Well, I'm at a question. What age do we get to where we need the rain? Because I'm with you on that. Like, where we need the rain. Like, do we really need the rain? Like, what? I mean, I love my grass. I love it. I cut it. I love the straight lines, the whole 9 yards. But when did I get to the point where I need the rain? I'm with you. I was like, oh, we're not putting the sprinklers out today.
But that's the problem. That's the problem, Lance. I've paid twice. I've put in real money to this lawn twice. It's not a big plot of land. It's very small. It should be easy to maintain. And I'm 0 for 2. Okay. I've just sunk money into this to make it perfect. I wanted it to be a golf course. A very small, the smallest golf course you've ever seen. And I failed again, and I feel like it is an attack on my manhood. If I cannot build this little, I can't stress enough how small it's barely this studio, and I couldn't get it done again. And I'm sitting here going, well, shockwaves to the system because they knocked down the 2 big trees across the street, and that was too jarring for my plot of land.
It's not that crane into that house.
The crane into the house. You may have seen this in the news. That couldn't have helped. You're trying to establish a root system here. It's really falling apart. And so these when we don't have LeBron James, and I don't have we don't have any new Browns quarterbacks to talk about. The Sorsby thing came and went. The Guardians were postponed yesterday, and so I'm looking around and go, well, there's really not that much going on. I can focus on what I need to do with the grass. And it didn't rain enough. So that's how I started the day.
So you're needing the rain. So now, did you reach out to the experts when you tried to redo your lawn? Is that what happened?
I did.
And it didn't work?
I did. And I paid for the experts.
I think that's you made an attempt. I mean, what are you going to do? That's what they do best.
That's what I did was a rain dance because it needed the rain. We've had these drought-like conditions. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Welcome. We've never worked together.
Appreciate you having me.
And we're going to talk a lot of football today because we have audio. The Browns' future is looking bright. I cannot wait to pick your brain on the quarterback stuff. You're going to be out of camp, but we have to start out, folks. I know you told me get off LeBron. Stop talking about LeBron James. The LeBron James thing is over. It is just beginning with him in Philadelphia because they're in the Eastern Conference. The Cavs are trying to get better. We played a clip. Owen played the clip to lead the show. Why I was going to boo LeBron James. Coach, you have been a sports fan in Cleveland for many years, and the majority of your life now, you'd have to say, has been dominated by LeBron James. Being somebody in your life, being somebody in Northeast Ohio's life, whether he was here, whether he was the high school situation, drafted here, when he was in Miami, certainly at the forefront. We were really bad, and we were paying attention to every Miami Heat game, essentially for 4 years. And then we got him back, had him for another 4. Lakers, all right, he kind of went out to the West Coast. Wasn't as big of a deal. Bubble championship and all that. I have affixed an asterisk by that title, but, some people disagree. So then we thought we had a chance to get him again. And now there's controversy. Why is there controversy? Meadowlark Media, Dan Lebitard, who admitted that LeBron James is such a big deal that they would not exist if LeBron hadn't gone to Miami, meaning his show and the 30 people they have on the show, like the modern Dan Patrick show, says wouldn't be a thing. They hundreds of millions of dollars Meadowlark Media has amassed over time. He says it's because of LeBron. So when people say LeBron's not a big deal, isn't a driving force, cannot be an economy of its own, Dan Lebitard says absolutely he wouldn't be here today in this current form that he's in as a media company without LeBron James. Well, he weighed in on LeBron James and says something kind of fishy is going down in Philadelphia.
If tomorrow someone reports that the Topps deal is worth, how much more do I have to make it than the average deal? Because it can be argued LeBron James is a bigger star than anybody, and so he's worth any amount of money that you want to pay him for a Topps card. But where do I have to put the number to get your attention on saying, you know what, that is curious that it would happen that way?
Nowhere. Unless he got more money to go to Philadelphia, we're having an irresponsible conversation. It's an irresponsible thing for a professional organization to posit that LeBron James picked a destination because of a Topps deal.
You're using words that aren't being used.
Okay, to curiously posit that he picked a destination because of a Topps deal. He's the biggest star in sports. He was going to have an endorsement deal with Topps regardless. And he picked another team that makes a ton of sense. For a team or a fan base to question what's going on here when the guy at most could have made $8 million, there's nothing shady going on here. But he picked Philadelphia. There's a very strong argument for it. This was the best roster to help me win now.
This is a one-off moment in the history of the league. We've never seen a player ever say the following thing: I don't care about money. I don't care about my family. So I don't even know how to frame it because it is unbelievable.
That was Dan Lebitard arguing with his co-host, Mike Ruiz, who used to be a Browns fan. He talks about that all the time. So let me let you in on this a little bit. And spirit of full disclosure, there's a Fanatics tie-in. We are proud partners of Fanatics, but the owner of Fanatics, they also own Topps. It's Michael Rubin. Rubin throws these swanky parties every year, is quite literally in bed with all the celebrities. They all love hanging out with him. There's a Blitzer connection, too. Rubin was a 10% owner in the Philadelphia 76ers. He divested. But what is being alleged in some corners of the internet and by Dan Lebitard there potentially is that there could be some cap circumvention here to the Kawhi Leonard degree. Things that we don't know and are tough to prove, but I don't know how much LeBron James got paid to do those panels that we talked about for Fanatics Fest. And so is this something that you even care about? Would a Cavs fan even care if it turns out that, it's a big if he went down to Philadelphia and was getting paid on the side? Would you even care?
No, at this point I don't. And here's why. So when he left the first time, so he's been gone pretty much as he's been here. And I've heard a lot about legacy. And I think the legacy has a lot to do with like what we want as fans and what I want his legacy to be. Maybe his legacy is to do exactly what he's doing. So I don't really care how he gets paid. I wasn't as invested this time. And I say that because every time he's left or come back, I've been very invested. When he left for Miami, I was generally upset. I really was. The first time where another grown man made me generally weep because he left. I wasn't as invested this time. For me, as a coach, I'm thinking he is 42, right? He's going to be 42 years old. And there comes a time where that father time is undefeated. So I'm looking at it from that. How much more can he give? I don't care how he gets paid. I'm looking at the 76 roster. The idea that roster was so much better than Cleveland, I don't agree with that. So no, I don't care how he gets paid. I wanted him to come back. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a good fit here. But I also wasn't I wasn't torn apart at all this time with him not coming back. As much as I was, as happy as I was when he came back in 10, or when he, or as irritated as I was when he left, this time not so much. That has gone. Got the championship. That time has gone for me, and I wish him the best. I cheer him on. But I'm not invested like I once was.
Well, I said I was not going to cheer him on in Philly. The minute the career is over, and I think people missed this yesterday when I saw a lot of you're coping, you're projecting. Yeah, I'm probably doing all these things. I am emotionally invested in LeBron for good reason. How could a Cleveland fan not be? Anybody that says they're not as well, I don't believe them. And I don't mean to say that you don't believe that like he wasn't the biggest deal ever this time at age 41 going into year 24. I understand that. I wanted the story. This is what I do for a living. I'm also been a diehard sports fan, a Cleveland sports fan my whole life. Like the LeBron story finishing in Cleveland, yes, I was emotionally invested in all of that. I just wonder, do we care if any of these guys, Kawhi, LeBron, obviously this is becoming a college football story with the NIL stuff, but we don't even truly know how much NIL these guys are making. It's all estimates. But is it a big deal to anybody in a sport that is essentially hard capped because of the second apron that a team competing with the Cavs as well? Because as I say this, I should care. I should care that this would be a way that they could get somebody that's really good, top 25 player right now. Some would even say top 20 after they won that series against Houston last year with the Lakers. And LeBron basically ran the show with no Luka, no Austin Reeves, that they could get around the salary cap and do so to do it by nefarious means. I should care about it. I just kind of wonder how many guys are on the take anyway that we'll never find out. Like the Kawhi thing is being litigated and it's been investigated. They're prolonging the investigation. It didn't even lead to any winning. That's the crazy thing about the Clippers. Like, whatever. It didn't lead to anything. But, is this something I should want Dan Gilbert to do? Should I want Dan Gilbert to be able to give free agents money on the side? Again, we're taking the conversation to an absurd length just to prove a point. Should I want that out of my owner? Should I beg him to be doing that? Should I tell him to... I remember when he used to own Fatheads. Hey, should I tell him to give $100 million to a free agent that we can only pay $5 million? Like, is that something that I should ask of my owner and try to see if they can get away with and skirt the CBA?
Well, here's the thing. When you talk about LeBron James, obviously the name, and once again, he averaged, 26 again last year? I understand that. But again, I'm going to go back to his age and where he's at. And what I thought he would give to the Cavs is the championship kind of mental, right? How to practice, how to take care of your body. But the idea of him being what he once was, I think that's why I am not as invested, is that he's not. He's not the high riser that he once was. And I don't really care how these people get paid. And I think that for me, I always look at this, and I'm going to use Jose Ramirez as an example. I want my Cleveland people to be totally bought into Cleveland. They're not. LeBron is not. He loves Cleveland. He treated it well. He's left multiple times and hasn't come back multiple times. It doesn't mean he didn't do a ton for us. I'm just not... After, you let me down, you break up with me so many times and you leave so many times, it doesn't mean I don't like you still. It just means I understand what you're giving, and I understand what you're giving to me, and that's kind of where I think with him. I just don't think it.
All right. Well, we are off and running. Interesting discussion. 216-474-0092, the LeBron story. Like I said, just getting started. A little bit later in the show, I do wonder, Miles left, LeBron leaving, Miles had asked for a trade. You mentioned Jose Ramirez. He's like the anomaly to all of this. I wonder how fans are dealing with their relationships with players. I want to get into that a little bit later in the show. But when we come back, hey, Browns training camp, they are getting there in Berea. It starts this week. The excitement begins.
Christmas morning.
For people like you. Yes, I don't know if people like me. But is the future really bright? A national pundit thinks so for your Cleveland Browns. How about some optimism before I knock it down. That's coming up straight ahead on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
It's symbolized.
Most of the roads are drying out following the overnight rain, so your trek towards downtown Cleveland shouldn't be too bad on this Tuesday morning. Jeff Thomas, Odyssey Cleveland traffic.
Deshaun Watson, Shador Sanders. The Browns QB battle is back. Starting July 28th, we're your home for training camp and preseason coverage. The radio home of the Cleveland Browns. 92.3 The Fan.
Later in the show, 8:20, Jason Lloyd of The Athletic has a lot to get off his chest when it comes to the Cavs' current state of affairs, that LeBron fella leaving for Philadelphia, and we'll get his thoughts basically on everything. All-around good guy, that Jason Lloyd. He's on at 8:20. Anthony Lima and Coach Riesland is in with us today. Love having you on to talk about the Browns because you're going to be out in training camp basically every single day, breaking down every throw. Now, we had Daryl on yesterday, and I asked Daryl, are you going to chart every throw? So I got to ask you, are you going to chart every single damn throw from those quarterbacks?
Well, I will say this, and I don't mind saying it to you. There's not a throw without context means absolutely nothing. So, no, I won't be throwing I don't chart throws.
Well, wait, you're telling me that if I see a graphic on social media.
Means nothing. Either way.
And I see two names. Sorry, Dylan. I see two names, Shador Sanders and Deshaun Watson. And if I see a 7/11, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, you're telling me that doesn't mean anything? Because that's going to be all we're going to talk about.
I'm telling you, it means
that's the whole show.
If you don't get any context, then no. Here's why: because you have to make sure that when are they going?
We're not going to have a show.
So the first time I saw,
what are we going to do on the show?
Wouldn't be the first time.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. When you look at throws, if you don't have context with throws, you don't know, are they in 7-on-7s? Are the defense? Are they everything scripted? Meaning the offense and defense know what they're doing. I remember last year there was a couple times where they were working on Hail Marys at the end of the half. I remember standing there, and I remember Kevin Stefanski going, hey, make sure you get the ball up, right? This is the end of the game, no time left. And then that was shown as an interception. What a terrible throw. It has to be context in what you're doing. So when you say, yeah, quarterback looked good, his footwork looked good, that ring, but the actual without context, no, it doesn't mean much to a coach.
How are we going to do the show, though? That's my only question. Anyway, this is why it's going to be fun. See, this is why Coach is in here. This is why it's going to be valuable to have him at training camp to come on and say, all right, I know maybe one guy's stats look better on the graphic than the others, but, I saw Monken and I saw how he was coaching him, and was he even making the right read on that particular throw? Yeah, that's open. Well, it's the drill. Like, these are the things that people are going to get so carried away because everybody's dug in. Everybody's got their guy, right? Or everybody may not believe in either of the guys, but wants to prioritize maybe youth over somebody with baggage. Like, we're going to get into all of that, but that's why I think it'll be valuable to have you there every single day, because if I'm there just charting the throws, like, what?
Well, and here's
what
the
are we
thing,
gonna
too.
do?
Confirmation bias is the worst thing. So if you say a guy stinks or he's great, you're already – so in a course of and Monken's going to run tough camp now over 2 hours. So if you talk over 2 hours, if you have confirmation bias going into this practice or going into a scrimmage – you're going to get the narrative you want based on your bias. So for me, you got to go in and you got to have an open mind and kind of look at the whole practice. Because if I say a guy stinks, he's going to have a bad throw. He's going to make a bad read. And then all of a sudden that fits your narrative. And that's where I'm not at with either of these quarterbacks. I don't think either of them. I don't care that Deshaun hasn't played well in 6 years. And I don't care that Shador was a 5th-round pick. Judge it on what you see moving forward.
All right. With that said, reason to believe that things are going to get turned around with the Browns. I was looking for some optimism. Yesterday, we did the Jerry Jeudy stuff. I'm like, come on. We can't start the week out talking about Jerry Jeudy dividing the quarterback room, picking one of the others, social media. Are these edited? I mean, we did the whole investigation yesterday with our private eye, Young John. I have no interest in doing that today. What I have interest in doing is hearing from somebody like Ross Tucker, who appeared on the afternoon show yesterday and had this to say about your Cleveland Browns.
That sounds about like a fair number. It's weird because I was thinking about coming on with you guys. You had texted me, Nick. And on the one hand, I feel like the Browns are in a pretty good place. You guys know I really like Todd Monken. What they've done the last couple of years, the infiltration and infusion of all these young players, I think those are real positives. And if they drafted as well this year as they did last year, I do think that provides the foundation for the next playoff team in Cleveland. The flip side is we still don't have an established quarterback. And so what I was going to tell you guys is maybe it's Watson for a few games and see, give him a last chance. And then maybe Shador gets a lot of the season. And if not, the 2027 NFL draft is supposed to be really good for quarterbacks. The negative is, isn't this the exact same thing I said to you guys last year? And then it didn't work out that way. On the one hand, I feel like the Browns are in a pretty good spot in terms of the way they're going about building things. On the other hand, they still need the guy at that position. And I guess we'll see if whether Deshaun or Shador can be that guy.
So essentially, Ross and everybody, they're going to say the same thing. Hey, bunch of young talent on this team. Why are we all excited so much? Potentially two good drafts back to back. It is funny to even talk about this draft as being good. That's just based on the projections. So if you like the projections, then whatever. But people around the league have been giving Andrew Berry, the front office, plenty of kudos to what they've been able to do in the draft the last 2 years. But I just wonder if to Browns fans, does that ring hollow when you hear future is bright, bunch of young talent on the team? Because I feel like I've heard that a bunch, and the Browns are never good. So we did have two playoff runs, or playoff appearances, I should say. But overall, whether it was Kevin Stefanski, whether it was, anybody before him, it was always the future is bright, the future is bright, the future is bright. What do you have to show for it? So do you take what Ross Tucker just said? Are you going to focus on the future is bright part if you're a Browns fan, or until the quarterback thing gets settled, it may not matter?
Two things is you can go back 2 years ago and say that draft was good. Saying this year's draft is really good is kind of like charting passes, right? It doesn't make a lot of sense without context. There needs to be proof in that, right? Now, the thing I've noticed about this group is they move very well. There's an influx of talent at all positions in terms of their movement skills. They all run. This looks like a faster team when you watch them practice in the spring. Here's the issue with all of this is when you say we're taking a look. I'm not taking a look at a guy. I'm not seeing what a guy has left. I'm going to control what I can control. And when people say, what is your prediction on wins? It's 1-0. And I'd be, that's coach's talk. No, it is absolutely not. When you focus on winning each week, what is it if you're 2-12? Then be 3-12, right? And the reason I say that, because that drives how you practice, that it drives your attention to detail, that drives your enthusiasm, that drives how you coach, so when you think about the future, as my dad would always say, you're usually not a part of it. If you're thinking too far ahead, the Browns, that's why the quarterback conversation for me doesn't make any sense sometimes. Who is the better quarterback going into Jacksonville? That's what I can control. I have to be 1-0. If you want to start thinking about culture and all these things, it is tied to winning. And the Browns have to focus on not so much draft capital and all these things. What do I got to do to win in Jacksonville? Because you'll see, and I truly believe this, when you start winning, these things take care of themselves. And that's where they haven't done. They're always worried about what's next. Worry about Jacksonville. I think that's what I think Todd Monken's doing. That's why he hasn't named a quarterback. He's just trying to figure out the best guy to win in Jacksonville.
All right, so what you are saying is when you hear guys like Ken, certainly I've said it at times, and I think, I don't know, maybe the majority of the fan base would probably pick the younger guy, right? The younger guy, because we always think younger means more runway, more potential. You can coach them up. They can get better over time, as opposed to what do we normally say about guys that have been in the league a long time, like the trajectory has been met. There's not going to be a lot of room, save for Sam Darnold, who won a Super Bowl last year, amazingly enough. You aren't going to listen to any of that.
No, absolutely not. It doesn't make any sense. To say Deshaun Watson, I'm going to bring Deshaun Watson's name into it, to say that he is washed up. I don't care what he's done for 6 years. When people say he hasn't played well in 6 years, okay. As Todd Monken's thinking, I don't care about that. We're going to be in an offense that stresses improvisation, is going to make him extend plays, throw the ball vertically. These are things that Deshaun Watson does well. There's also some things that Shedeur does well that are really meet Monken's kind of needs when he's calling plays. I just don't think when you think about, let's take a look and let's see what we have in a guy, that's setting yourself up for failure. You need to say, this guy, I don't want a guy to play because we're going to take a look at him. I want a guy to play. So if Shedeur's the quarterback, I want him to beat out a healthy Deshaun Watson who's playing well, not the least of the two guys playing terrible. I just think that the motto has to change. We need the best guys to play. That's who helps us win.
When I have come on the mic and said things like, hey, best case scenario for everybody involved is for Shedeur Sanders to be good, to continue to improve, and then boom, your 5th round pick is a starting quarterback in the NFL on the cheapest salary you can imagine, and you can build around him. Do you agree with that, or do you say, man, I don't know, Deshaun Watson, we've seen a level that he can get to that probably Shedeur can't get to?
Once again, I'm not looking at any of those things. When I go to camp tomorrow, I'm looking at, all right, so I'm thinking Jacksonville. How do we get to Jacksonville? Because that's the only thing I can control right now. I can't even control week 2. And if you think of it in those terms, I think it always makes the tunnel a lot thinner because you're not thinking about what we're going to get in the future and what is the 2027 draft and are we going to get a quarterback? I'm not thinking about any of that stuff. And I think that's where Todd Monken is at 60 years old. People said he's going to be a one and done. He's not thinking about any of that. How do I win in Jacksonville? That makes this quarterback competition very interesting. It also makes the level of competition. They're not taking a look at guys. This is the time you develop in the summer, in the spring. Now it's training camp time. It's time to make plays and figure out a way to win games. That's where they need to be. Winning is the cure to what ails you. And I don't care what anybody says. It's easier to do things. Food tastes better. You're not as sore. All those things happen when you're not when you're winning.
All right, I love this conversation. 216-474-0092. When we come back, we're going to get into a Todd Monken offense. What does that even mean? And who has a better shot for their style of play? Is it Shedeur Sanders or is it Deshaun Watson? And we have a chance at 8 o'clock to win Lake Erie Crushers tickets. Jason Lloyd at 8:20. And what is a Cleveland fan's relationship with their favorite players? Could that be shattered a bit after Myles Garrett and LeBron James? We'll explore that coming up later in the hour here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan, XTENDAV.
right time. You know what I'm saying? Just like everybody else, I've been waiting too. Things got to line up right. I feel like this the year that we all come together.
Back in the days, getting the body, getting the movement right, make sure that I'm at my peak, going into training camp, getting ready for the season. So, man, body, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, everything in the right space. And I'm constantly just building every day. So, locked in, I'm ready. I'm ready for sure.
Is this the year it all comes together? What, that was Deshaun Watson on his social media?
Correct.
His video team? I mean, who's putting...
In the battle of video teams, I don't know who's winning.
Yeah, well, we have to chart this. That's why Coach Riz is here in studio.
Well, I thought he was doing throws. Now he's doing video
I'm charting video teams.
Yes.
All right.
I want to know, because this video looked pretty sleek. Now, like, when it comes to, the number, the velocity of videos, Shador's got him. Like, it's not even a contest.
Overwhelms you with just sheer number.
Sheer number. It's every day.
But I'd like to know frames per second. Things like that.
Okay, I'll get to it.
So that's Deshaun Watson. And when people hear that, what do you think when Browns fans hear this is the year it all comes together? What's interesting is every time I talk to Lance here, who's in studio for Ken Carman, every time I talk to you, you say that Deshaun Watson looks kind of like Deshaun Watson. No pads, there's no defense, there's nobody chasing him. There's nothing to really process at the line of scrimmage. Like, you're just saying what from what you have seen from him from camp?
Just pure health, his ability to spin the ball. And I've seen a lot of quarterbacks throw, and I've been lucky enough to go down there where I've seen a bunch of joint practices, went to Philly last year. I've seen a lot of NFL quarterbacks throw. Those elite guys, when they were elite, it doesn't mean, once again, you just brought up a great point. It means nothing till live bullets are flying around. But his ability to move, which it looks as good as it's looked since he's been here. He looks healthy, movement-wise, moving up in the pocket, breaking out of the pocket, stepping up in the pocket, extending plays. Looks very good, just health-wise. And then when he spins the ball, it's a different level of spin. He was some guys, if you think about Aaron Rodgers, who I think is maybe the best pure just thrower of the football, him and Dan Marino, where there's not a lot of effort. If you think about like Baker Mayfield, having used that whole body, he just spins it. It just jumps off his hand. Now, that doesn't mean anything. And the idea when so the first argument you get from me, well, he hasn't been good in 6 years. What does that mean to Todd Monken? What does that mean going into the 2020?
I think that I couldn't agree more. I've hit on that. Like, it's the last time, funny thing is, last time Todd Monken really saw him was that second half in Baltimore when he had his best half as a Cleveland Brown.
So, and once again, when people tell me he hasn't played, that's the first thing to come out. He hasn't played good in 6 years. Who cares? Monken doesn't care. Monken's trying to win week 1. And if that is the mentality, you don't care who it is. You don't care if he's going to be around week 7 or if he's hurt. Your thought is, how do I win week 1? Now, that when you try to win week 1, now Shador, if he's not the quarterback, he's had to push because if he wants to play, he's going to have to beat out a really good Deshaun Watson. Which then, if something was to happen to Deshaun Watson, you're not just putting him in because you're taking a look at him. You're putting him in because he's earned the right to play. That's just where I don't see. So for me, everything you said is exactly right, Don. But he looks healthy. Whatever that means, it doesn't mean anything because there's no live bullets. But he looks healthy.
Boy, that is interesting. The earn the right to play thing, because I can't really say, and I think under the circumstances, like obviously the numbers are bad. I brought it up with Shador. But to go out there and even look like a quarterback at times, I got to give it to him and to absorb the hits that he took, because he really didn't earn it last year. I mean, he was 4th on the depth chart. They traded away.
Flacco?
No, before Flacco, they got rid of. Why can't I think of the Pittsburgh kid?
What am I? Who am I?
Kenny Pickett?
Kenny Pickett. Yes.
I just had a brain.
So they get rid of Kenny Pickett because he was injured, and they had 4 guys. All right. So he moves up the depth chart. He goes from 4 to 3. Well, they trade Joe Flacco, so he moves up the depth chart. Well, then they're playing Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel has the concussion. Then he moves up the depth chart. Like, nothing was really earned last year. And I know I got into it with Ken. Ken's like, well, he wouldn't put him on the field. Who else was he going to put on the field? Like, who else was he going to, were they going to go and get somebody else from another practice squad or another? Like, no, that wasn't going to happen. So he got in there. It looked kind of like I thought it was going to look. Pretty bad. Statistically, the eye test, he made some great throws late in the in obviously the game against Tennessee, made some great throws late. Also threw one of the worst interceptions you'll ever see. I thought he ran himself into a lot of problems. I did think that he was courageous. Like, I couldn't believe that he kept getting up, kept challenging defenses. But, late in the season, it's the Cincinnati game. I did not think he played well at all. And he came away with a win, right? The Pittsburgh game, I did not think he played well at all. But, he ended up getting some W's, leading the team. I do think that counts for something. But, of course, that coaching staff is gone. And now you have Todd Monken that comes in here. And now he has a chance, legitimately has a chance to earn the starting job. So I ask you, this offense, as you think it's going to look, now maybe it changes once you get out there and you see it a little more under the management of Todd Monken here as they try to do. They've already put in the installs, but as it starts to look, when you see real 11 on 11, who is this offense going to be better suited for?
Well, that's great. So here's the thing. So the offense is based on this. The offense is suited for both of them because it's really not a style. So if you think about what Kevin Stefanski, and I say this as a precursor, it's not better, it's different because everybody always thinks when the new guy comes in, the last guy stunk. Kevin had a lot of success with what he did. It didn't work out the last couple of years, but he is a system-based guy, meaning he's going to call what he plays, he's going to call what he calls, and you got to kind of fit into that. This new offense is based on players. So that being said, both Deshaun Watson and Shedeur Sanders, one of their better qualities is making plays when things break down, keeping the play alive, extending plays, throwing the ball vertically downfield, getting the ball to the best player's hands. So if you think about the Browns right now, their two best players on offense are Judkins and Fannin for me. They're going to touch it early on because that gives you the best chance to win. So those are until other guys prove that they can do it. The system doesn't matter. These two guys got to touch it. So it really favors both of these guys because of the idea of we got to throw it vertically, we got to extend plays, and we got to work outside of structure a lot of times when things break down. And we got to get the ball to our best players. It's really, really simple when it comes down to it. This is not based on a system. This is based on players. That's the big difference in this offense. It suits both of them. We'll see what happens starting tomorrow.
Well, when you break down the arms, so obviously Deshaun Watson has had the surgically repaired shoulder, and it clearly messed with him, right? Like it clearly was not, the ball didn't come out the same way. Go look at the tape from him in Houston, especially those first 2 years, and go look at the way the ball comes out, and then look at any of his era in Cleveland so far. And then Shedeur comes in. Now, he was not projected to have some elite NFL arm. Maybe we're talking about a real first-round quarterback, aside from all the other reasons he might have slipped. If he would have had that arm. His athleticism, man, he got out of some crazy pass rushes, but he's not normally given credit for being like a freak, freak athletically gifted guy. But yet, with that said, I saw him throw some beautiful deep balls last year. And then, later in the year, it gets tougher because of the winds and in that stadium. But he still was able to complete some passes down the field, which kind of surprised me. How do you when you look at their arm, how do you evaluate the arm strength and how that could dictate things?
Well, arm strength a lot of it comes down to anticipation and do you know where you're going with the ball? And when you do that, your arm strength becomes better than it really is because you know exactly what the defense is going to do and where your guy's going to be. And if you can anticipate where your guy's going to be and throw the ball early, I'll go old school here with Dan Marino and Joe Montana. Not elite arms, right? Even though Dan could zip it, it was the idea of if you know where you're going with the football and you anticipate it, that anticipation leads to arm talent. Now, there are guys like Josh Allen who can just say you're open and I'm going to fire to you. But if you don't have that arm, you got to be anticipatory and you got to understand where people are going to be. That's what these guys got to do better. That's what will Deshaun. We'll see. Like I said, I thought it looked really good in the spring. That's always been Shedeur's strength is anticipation. So that's why his arm strength, even though it's not elite, he does throw with good anticipation. He's got to throw with better anticipation at the NFL level than he did at Colorado. That's where the improvement, the footwork, the anticipation, that's what needs to get back to what it was at Colorado if he's going to be a successful NFL quarterback. But that's really what arm strength is. It's just a part of it. Because if you don't have a rocket, you got to know where people are and where defenders are going to be.
I cannot wait to see these guys this week. All right, when we come back, well, LeBron James told you Sorry, Cleveland. No storybook ending. Myles Garrett had asked for a trade. A year later, he was sent out. Those are two of the best to ever put on uniforms in Cleveland. So I asked the Cleveland fans when we come back about their relationship with their favorite athletes going forward and if they think it could change. That's straight ahead here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
This is an Odyssey Sports.
sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
All the hits, grunts, strains, and sprains. Training camp coverage like nobody else. The Afternoon Drive. Weekdays starting at 2. 92.3 The Fan.
One hour from now, Lake Erie Crushers ticket contest. As apparently, we're going to have a big 92.3 The Fan night out there. You big minor league baseball fan?
Yeah, you know what? My wife and I and my daughter, we go to we go to Avon, we go to out to East Lake. I think though, we've been to Akron. This year we've been to East Lake and Akron.
You make the rounds.
I do. It's one of those things where it's a night out. Obviously, you got kids. You understand. You take it's a great night out. You get a bite to eat. You watch a game. See some future guards. Hopefully, But I'm into going to see that for sure. I love seeing stadiums, etc. So I'm in.
And there could be a mystery guest throwing out the first pitch, or is it just going to be Ken Carman?
I mean, I assume it's just going to be Ken Carman.
It's just going to be Ken.
Unless he's got to practice that night or something.
Will it be a strike if he throws it? Will it be a strike?
Yeah, he can throw it.
Absolutely not.
You don't think so?
No.
He'll get it to the plate. I agree there. He can throw well enough.
Yeah.
No strike, though? You're saying no strike?
I'm saying if we're actually doing ABS, it won't be a strike.
All right.
I don't believe in him.
We have Jason Lloyd at 8:20. He's got a lot to say as people are still putting together what might have happened with the LeBron situation. We led the show with a potential nefarious cap circumvention alleged from down there in Miami. They're upset. People in Cleveland are upset. Everybody's saying move on. But, when that schedule comes out in about 3 weeks, it'll be very, very interesting to see when the Cavs will welcome LeBron James back to Cleveland. And how many video tributes there could be in the air for Mike Gansey, for LeBron, for Dean Wade. Heck, does Rich Paul get a video tribute? I don't think Rich Paul is going to be getting a video tribute from anybody in Cleveland anytime soon. So, look, LeBron left, and I said I was going to be devastated, and I was. And then I said I'd boo LeBron James when he comes back this year, because if it's a game, which LeBron and his people did everything they could to kind of put the screws to all the other teams that he didn't end up going to, and he ends up going to Philadelphia. It's a cutthroat business. It's a cutthroat world. He's allowed to do that. All right, let's go. Let's have some fun with this. I don't see any harm in that. Well, people jumped all over me. Myles Garrett, he obviously had asked for a trade after, to me, he's the best Cleveland Brown I've ever seen. Like, not even close. I did not get to see Jim Brown play, in the flesh. I can't imagine anybody in the future being as good as Myles Garrett defensively. And obviously, we had an affinity towards him. A lot of Myles Garrett jerseys. I didn't see any jersey burnings or anything when he asked out or when he eventually, a year later, left. But I want to ask everybody. I want to get everybody involved in this discussion. 216-474-0092. These are two of the greatest to ever suit it up in Cleveland, LeBron James and Myles Garrett. Jose Ramirez, he stayed.
Outlier. He's the outlier.
He is the all-time outlier and at a massive discount. I don't think we'll ever see another Jose Ramirez to that level again in Cleveland. I am wondering, now I'm a little more cynical than most when it comes to this, because I always try to warn fans, it's great to have a favorite player. It's great to buy that jersey for your kid. Just rein in the expectations for both on the field and off, on the court and off. That's the cynical part of me who's covered sports for a very long period of time and know a little bit how the sausage is made, and have also gotten to know a little bit more than sometimes we can say about a player on the air. My question is for all of you, is this going to jeopardize your bonding with athletes going forward? Because if you had that kind of investment in Myles Garrett, and you had this kind of investment, and I've seen the reaction, that I'm done with LeBron forever. Now he shouldn't get a statue. Now, the Cavs should never entertain bringing him in for reunion. I'm like, ridiculous. He won the championship. That's absolutely ridiculous. But what about your relationship going forward with these guys from the moment you draft them and go down to the arenas, go down to the stadiums to watch them?
Well, I've been hardened over, I would say when LeBron left for Miami, I kind of, first of all, I was getting older. Now that I'm in my 50s, I kind of look at it this. Much more of a team. I like the teams more than I like players. And I think that's with age. But I think also LeBron kind of, like I said, hardened me. So, like, I'm not really, like, I love Jose, but he's the outlier. And in my mind, I know he's the outlier. And that's why I think he should be the person on the, all the billboards, because he decided to stay here. The reality is money talks. Other things are involved in these things. But the Browns aren't going away. The Guardians aren't going away, that kind of thing. So I'm much more of a team guy than I am an actual player guy. And it comes down to that's why it helps me when I evaluate, like, the Cleveland Browns. I don't really care who the quarterback is. I want competent quarterback play. I don't care who it is. I don't have a horse in the race. I just want a guy who's competent. It's the same thing. So I'm more about the teams now than I am actual players.
It's just so funny because the quarterbacks are, Ken tells me every day, all the quarterbacks are going to be a brand now. They're all going to have, their video teams, their marketing teams. They're all going to do
your brand works better when you win, though, right?
Right.
That's the bottom line. Is I think people get mad when there's a brand before the product. The brand, these kids do that stuff. You got to have a product first.
Well, the kid thing. So you said as you got older, as you progressed later in life, that kind of changed things. Maybe because you've seen players that you admired and loved come and go. If you're a Cleveland Indians Guardians fan over the years, nobody stayed.
Brutal.
You always knew Manny Ramirez, Victor Martinez, like that, devastating. Cliff Lee, we could go on, CeCe Sabathia, on and on and on. You just kind of knew over time. I kind of learned. Like, Ken would call Josh Naylor the most, did he say most entertaining? Most exciting.
Entertaining, yeah.
But he's gone, so now you have to move on. You can't cry over it. And now, out the door, Ken has been hard on Josh Naylor when we kind of found out maybe some teammates didn't exactly love, but you didn't know that at the time, right? So that wasn't going to impact your love. And I just wonder for everybody in Cleveland, 216-474-0092, is it going to change? Joe Thomas, bring up all the time, comes on the show. I text with Joe. I've eaten his Hall of Fame beef. It is
delicious,
delectable. It's incredible. We all understand, like, he's Cleveland, right? He's Cleveland. He's good. Now, he doesn't live here, but he's Cleveland through and through. And he had raised his family here in Cleveland. But you guys realize, like, had he been drafted by Jacksonville, it would be Jacksonville. Joe Thomas would love Jacksonville.
Yep.
That's Joe Thomas. That's who that dude is. And that's how, quite honestly, a lot of these dudes are. I guess when they pay the lip service to Cleveland, we've got a lot of great things. I live here. I'm finally, late in life, I'm building a family here. I don't think I'm moving now. I think I'm stuck is a bad term, right? I'm stuck. But we're not going anywhere because the in-laws are 7 minutes away. So we're probably going to stay here. I'm probably not taking the Milwaukee job for 3 times the price. I flirted with Vegas. You know that. When things
what was the numbers on that?
The beginning of this show, those first 2 years, Vegas was looking better and better and better. Anyway, we've weathered the storm. We got through it. We built something very cool here. I love Cleveland. I just don't know that when these athletes say they love Cleveland, if they truly love Cleveland. Like the fans, like they're doing it for the fan. Do you guys really buy that? Do you guys buy that these athletes truly care about the fans? Because this is the cynical nature of me after all these years. I've just seen the athletes come and go and then go to the next town and love their fans. Like, I just don't buy that. And I hate doing that because you want your kids to be invested. You want them to be invested in the teams. It seems more and more the kids like the players. The teams, I'm just sitting here going, it should be team. It should be team. Because these players, either they're going to turn on you or you're going to turn on them eventually.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. That's what social media has brought, is that now you think about quarterbacks. All these quarterbacks have a brand. My old school mentality says, I don't mind the brand. My dad coached for 45 years, never got fired, and he always said you got to meet the kids where they're at. So when kids do social media and things like that, that doesn't bother me whatsoever. What bothers me is that when that becomes more important or you're more known for that than your product. And that's kind of where it's at right now. So if you're a big fan of a guy who is on social media all the time, is not a great player, and then he leaves, that's where the problem comes in. And that's what you get with a lot of these guys. It's what you get with quarterback competitions throughout the league. These guys everybody knows who their quarterback is right now for the Cleveland Browns before they put pads on. It makes no sense to me. That's when you get tied into a player instead of the team. Again, that's hard to do with social media and everything they see. But if you ask Cleveland Browns fans who the quarterback is, they'll have an idea. They haven't done anything yet. They haven't had a pad on yet. And yet you know who the starter's going to be in a new offense with a new quarterback, with a new coach, with a new O-line, with the new receivers, etc. But you know who the quarterback is? Makes no sense.
Well, Shedeur Sanders is different because he came in famous, and not just his dad. I mean, yeah, people were invested because of who his dad was, but then he, at a very young age, seemed to be adept at, building that brand and social media. And so he's a little bit different. Like, I get that, all the quarterbacks coming in now are bigger and bigger and bigger, but Shedeur is in like a separate category. Ohio State had a quarterback win the national championship. He's not famous. Like we had Cardell Jones won a national championship. Will Howard won. They're not famous. Shedeur Sanders was part of the turnaround at Colorado. Didn't really win anything meaningful, but did absolutely spearhead the turnaround there in Colorado. But he's famous. He's famous. So are Cleveland fans that are buying the Shedeur jerseys, is the connectivity that important to them, or is that going to matter? Are they going to evaluate him on the merits, or is the fame thing going to be front and center there?
Well, a guy like him, you're right. He is, once again, even how famous he is an outlier. Wherever he's at is where their loyalties go. So they're not loyal to Cleveland. They're loyal to him. And if you talk about him coming in, that's why when you ask fans, I don't believe he's terrible. I also don't believe he's all pro right now. And I'm not saying he can't be, but that's what you get when you come in and you are in the limelight. You are a person on social media. You are in the media kind of world every single day, and that's what you want. Then you get judged that way. Then you get judged as you're amazing or you're terrible, and you don't get the growth that, he doesn't. I thought he did some good things last year, but he doesn't get that growth because of who he is. And that's the reality of it. And that's what he set up, and that's what he wants, which is okay. But then anytime everything is judged to such a level that no other rookie quarterback, both good and bad, gets.
All right, 216-474-0092. Open up the phone lines for you on this. And apparently we will have a Cavs update. Last night, more updates pouring in on the remake of the roster. For those that think they are just going to be running it back, Kobe Altman apparently getting busy. That's all straight ahead here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. It's Anthony Lima for QC Kinetics. Raise your hand if you're
first full team practice tomorrow afternoon. The first open practice where fans can attend, that is set for Friday. Can now find 92.3 The Fan on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Get the best content from our shows each and every weekday. That's 92.3 The Fan on YouTube. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
All right, Lake Erie Crushers ticket giveaway. That's at 8 o'clock. Jason Lloyd, 8:20. We have potential Cavs update at 8 o'clock on what they could be doing here in free agency. We got Coach Riz. Lance is here for Ken Carman today. Are you one of those that believe a player when a player says they really love the city?
At that time when they say it, yeah, but I don't think there's an internal, this is where I'm staying no matter what happens. I think money talks. I think your significant other has input in that. But I do think there's a loyalty there, and especially in a team sport. But no, I do not think that they're tied into their city as much as people would like.
Well, when they say this all the time, look, I just given my role, so maybe this is unfair, I just see the churn. I see them come and go. I'll see them back when I was younger. I'd see them out and about. And, yeah, there's always, younger players, like a little bit more nightlife or whatever. But that's, again, you age out of that. Most of them do. I think James Harden, it took till he was, at age 36 to find some responsibility and some balance in his life. Either way, I hear this all the time, and I'm like, you guys do realize that the athletes see a different part of the city than the average fan. The average fan who is grinding, trying to figure out how they're going to put food on the table, trying to figure out how they're going to pay their property taxes, trying to figure out, hoping they're in the school district they want to be in. Very, very different from the athlete who comes in with millions of dollars, especially we're talking mostly about the stars, that come in and they're some of the richest people in the community the minute they come into your community. And then everywhere they go, everybody wants their autographs, their picture taken. Most of the interactions the star athlete is going to have in your city is going to be very different from your day-to-day reaction with civilians, Gen Pop, in Cleveland. So that's why when I asked the question, do you think these athletes really care about the city? Take LeBron James, for instance. When he said, Cleveland, this is for you. Yeah, you fall for it. You have the feels because we watched him as a kid. I watched him at his 5th ever high school basketball game for St. V's. You see that coming of age tale and, battling the adversity and all that. It does in the moment. You're like, yeah, he really did this for us. In the end, do you think he's going to be talking about when in his 60s, I did this for the city? He would have done it whatever city he would have been in. Now he's going to try to do it for the fans of Philadelphia. And he's going to, at some point, they will have LeBron James eating a cheesesteak. At some point, somebody's going to catch him eating a cheesesteak. And they're going to be like, he gets us. Philadelphia. When he's never mentioned the Philadelphia fans his entire career.
Don't you think he'll be invested?
Won't even be living in Philadelphia.
Well, I was going to say, don't you think these athletes, do you think there's a level of investment when they're there at least? Because that's the way I think about it. I think he's invested when he's here. I think he does wanted to do that for Cleveland. I just don't think that, and I think you're right. I think if you have that expectation where he's invested where he's at, these athletes are invested where they're at. I think they want to win where they're at, but the tie, the personal tie, I've never thought, don't you think that they have like a connection when they're here, or do you think it's all phony?
I laugh. But phony is a strong word because that's almost unfair. If I say it's phony, then I'm casting this wide net that, they're all mercenaries. None of them they're all businessmen. But the funny thing is they all come out in college now. They talk like they're businessmen. That's all they talk about. And they hopefully they have the right people around them so that they're not spending all the money that they get, but they're learning at a very early age. Like I almost feel like the basketball players today are very different. They come in, they get into these academies, they go to these aren't high schools now. They go to prep school. Like, let's be honest here.
They're factories.
Yeah, they are. They're coming
factories.
from IMG, Oak Hill, even what they were building in Geneva up here at Spire. Like, this is Findlay Prep. This is what they're doing, and they're coming in trying to learn financial literacy because they're going to be capitalizing on NIL deals like from the get-go. It's crazy how different it is. It's their own economy, right? They end up hiring their own teams and their dietitians, and the professional teams have all these things too, and the kids have these things. So it's crazy. We're not dealing with just the way that we used to see, somebody come up, from high school and go to your public high school. That doesn't happen. They end up moving. They go to LA. They go to Florida for these things. And so they're not the same. So I do wonder if you root for them differently just from that standpoint. But you talked about the investment of who these people are once they come to town. I'll never forget, I was an intern at Fox 8. And one of the first interviews I ended up doing and holding out the microphone was for some free agent. He had been in Baltimore. He signs Gary Baxter. I don't know if you remember the name Gary Baxter. I think he was a safety or a corner. And I remember he came in because the PR team told him, talk about the dog pound. Talk about the mystique of the dog pound. And I'm like, dude, we don't have a dog pound anymore. This isn't Hanford Dixon and Frank Minifield. Like, they called it the dog pound at the new stadium. The signage was reflective of the dog pound. And so I'll never forget the very first interview after they drafted him. Excited to play in front of the dog pound. That's what Cleveland has, is the dog pound. And I'm like, this doesn't mean anything to me as a fan of the dog pound, as somebody who went to Municipal Stadium when I was 8 years old and got to sit with my dad and his friends in the dog pound. I had some memory that I had. These guys have no memory of the dog pound. There is no dog. But so this is that's phony. I hate to say it. Like, you use the term phony. That is quintessential phony. And I just wonder, they all have the PR training now. I just wonder if you think they care about you, if they care about you, the fans. Do they really care? Because Myles Garrett now is in a new city, and now he's got to do that. He's got to show up. Notice, very first chance he got, he went to mini camp on a new team. Never went to voluntary camp here in Cleveland. Never did it. What was he doing? I'm here to win. I'm here for you, the fan. Myles Garrett is not out in L.A. for the fans of Los Angeles, the transient city that he's in. He does not care about that. It's about him. It's about him. And I don't begrudge that. This is how the sausage is made. This is what I've found over time. That's all. I know, cynical. This is a very cynical view on a Tuesday morning at 7:28.
But don't you think for me, there has to do with a little bit with these cities like ours that are hardworking people, blue-collar people, and when they buy tickets, when they're it's part of their This is not like a social event, right? When they go to a Browns game, this is who they are. They have season tickets. They watch on Sundays. Their families come over. It's like they're invested, so they want their players to be invested like that. Do you agree with that? Or because in LA they don't care. You watch the LA games. You watch these games where
it's the fans from other cities,
correct? And
that invade their stadium.
And it's an event, and you're taking your company to sit in the suites. That's not the case in these hardworking cities, and I think that's part of it as well. That they think like, hey, they should be invested in this city like I am. I only make this amount of money, and a lot of it goes to you guys because I'm watching it. And in these other cities, it's not like that. So I think there's a level of investment and expectation because it's a part of like the fabric of a hardworking city.
So you said you were in Philly last year, right? For the joint practice. And LeBron James is going to Philly. Now, Philly is a crazy town. We know what the narrative on Philly is, right? It's like the fans are on another level crazy. They win Super Bowls there, and then they hate the coaches like the next year. They boo the team. They boo the coaches. We know the infamous story about the booing of Santa Claus, which in Philly, they don't really want to hear about that much anymore. Similar to, I think, in Cleveland, we probably don't want to hear about the burning river. That's from the Tonight Show from 40 years, 50 years ago. We don't really want to hear that anymore. LeBron James is going to Philly. He's not even living in Philadelphia. Should fans care about that? Is that something You can't. I mean, people here used to get upset when he would mention Akron instead of Cleveland. Lately, it's been more Northeast Ohio. He even wrote that in his message when he said Philly. And by the way, fans in Northeast Ohio. So in Philly, if they start out 2-8, the basketball team, they're going to be booing. Like, there's no affinity to LeBron James, nor do I think LeBron James, if he wins the championship there in Philly this year, is going to say, Philly, I did this for you. I don't think you'll be hearing that.
Do you think that do you think the fans of Philly are thinking they're getting LeBron, the high-flying 26-year-old, or do they know they're getting a 42-year-old who is going to be really good? But do you think they're going to be unhappy with the product he gives? Even if he's really good, he's not going to give you scoring, like he did in Detroit, where in the playoff game where he scored 25 or 30 points. He's not getting that guy anymore. Do you think they're going to? Do they expect that?
They better have the right expectation for him. They're probably hoping he will fit in with all the other elite talent they have in the starting lineup, and that it's going to fit. I mean, he's still. It's funny. I had a chart. Ken gets mad when I do these charts during the show, and I started doing it, and then Ken got really mad, so I stopped doing it. LeBron James dunking is still dunking. Like, that's one way to just measure athleticism and whatever. His dunking still, I think last year he had like 80 or 90 dunks. Crazy. We're talking about a guy at his age, and that was, in his 23rd year in the NBA. But no, he's not a freak athletically anymore, and he will play no defense in a regular season.
Well, and so
nor should he.
So are they expecting that? Because if they're expecting that, that's going to be a letdown for them as well.
Well, I tried to manage those expectations when I thought he was coming here.
I loved him. I wanted the whole package. I'm going to make people tougher, and he's got the championship pedigree and all those kind of things.
Teach guys like Evan Mobley how to train every day.
Yeah, and take care of your body and all those kind of things. But the idea of him coming back and being LeBron, who's going to score 35 a night, I didn't think that anymore.
While we have you here, and this is great, we have About Last Night coming up in a little bit, and we'll get into some Cavs at 8 o'clock, Jason Lloyd at 8:20. Browns defense this year, are they taking a massive step back without Myles Garrett?
No, they're not taking a step back. If they take a step back, it has to do with situational calling by a first-year defensive coordinator. Everybody talks about the six schemes being very similar, and they are. But if you and I are the same, if you and I have the same scheme, situationally, we're going to be different. Third down and medium, in the red zone, coming out, third down and long, second, all these situations that we see as coaches, if you and I have to run the exact same scheme, it's going to be a little different. And he's never done that. So that situational awareness, I didn't want to shade Myles Garrett. You win with players. Coaches get overrated at times. Still a very good defensive line. They have impactful people at the second level, very impactful corners. This is a very good defense. That situation, if they take a step back, it'll be because of his learning curve in those situations as a first-year play caller.
Well, that's what I'm wondering is what the impact. Obviously, losing Myles Garrett, I don't care. Bring in Jared Verse. I'm excited about him.
Correct.
Supposedly, he's more balanced of a defensive player, but he's not in the stratosphere.
Not going to get you 23.
Of Myles Garrett. He's not going to put that kind of pressure on opposing offensive lines and offensive coaches. But with that said, what is the impact going to be when Myles, how much easier he made the job for guys like Mason Graham and the secondary? Like, now the quarterback's going to have more beats, more time to get out of the pocket, or maybe even stay in the pocket, hang in there, and find guys down the field. What is the impact going to be on everybody else?
Well, the thing you said it really, really well. So when you look at an offensive coordinator, if you go into the Browns game, when you're playing the Browns, your left tackle is the weak player on your offense, regardless of who that left tackle is. So all your help, your chips, your slides, everything you're doing is for your left tackle because he's going against Myles Garrett. It doesn't matter who that left tackle is. That's your weakest player on the offensive line. Now that offensive line coach, they get to pick whoever helped their weakest offensive lineman. It may be the left guard who needs help on Mason Graham, or the right guard who needs help on Collins, or the right tackle who needs help on Isaiah McGuire, Alex Wright. So now you get to a pick. Now, as offensive coordinator, when I go into a game, I'm blocking Carson Schlesinger. That was never the case. So Carson Schlesinger now has to be better. Now, can they do it as a unit? I do think the unit now. So when you get those, so if Jared Verse is getting the help, then those other guys have to help. right? Because they're going to get singled. And you knew that coming in. Now, when Jared Verse gets singled, he's got to win. So they got to win some individual matchup. Carson Schwarzenegger's got to be more than instinctual because he was incredible. But now that's the game plan. We're blocking Carson Schwarzenegger. Coordinators are going to say he doesn't get to beat us today. That was always Myles Garrett. Now everybody else has got to do their part if this defense is going to be as good as it was.
Well, the crazy thing to think about is you're not just losing Myles Garrett. It'd be one thing if Jim Schwartz was here and everybody knew their responsibilities, and then it was, okay, Myles, we'd have plays or maybe even a rare series where he wouldn't be out there, and here is how we get into protective mode. Here's how we can react to that. Now both are gone, and so I don't want to say you're starting from scratch, but to have a totally new voice in there, and, you have an offensive coach. You have Tom Munkin's an offensive guy, so he's going to leave the defense up to this new defensive coordinator. It's kind of a big spot for him.
Well, and here's the thing about when they say philosophy, that does help because these guys are going to penetrate. If everybody has the same rules, it's that situational awareness. What do you call in situations? That's what'll be different.
All right, when we come back, and about last night, Myles Garrett could be getting a new teammate in L.A., and it's not Aaron Donald, and we'll tell you who that is, and $500K just lying around. We'll tell you what that can be spent on when we come back here on About Last Night Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
talk about it. Cleveland's Sports Radio, 92.3 The Fan.
So much can happen around the globe that we never hear of.
I really don't give a I mean, it had nothing to do with me. I mean, they moved the meeting. I didn't miss it. I was just trying to get a sweet haircut.
How it is when you win in Cleveland, man. They love you. When you lose, it's the way it should be.
He's a piece of crap. The kid, he sucks. He's sucked his whole career.
I got rumors about him. How he couldn't please his wife, so now he's divorced.
That sounds really good, but I'm not 6'5", and I don't have the athletic ability to play in the NBA.
Now, the Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima give their thoughts on what you might have missed about last night.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, well, their defensive tackle, Vita Vea, has requested a trade. The 31-year-old two-time Pro Bowler has spent his entire 8-year career in Tampa Bay and is in the final year of his contract. Ted Nguyen of The Athletic reported that he wants to go to a California team or the Raiders. Who else plays in California? That's right, it's Myles Garrett. And it's not hard to think about a defensive front of Myles Garrett, Braden Fisk, Byron Young, Vita Vea, and potentially Aaron Donald. Do you think that he'd be a good fit out there in LA?
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, it's becoming, the All-Stars.
The Avengers.
They're putting together a super team defensively. It almost seems unfair. Also, is this a vote of no confidence in Baker Mayfield? Is that what this is right there in Tampa? Lance, your thoughts?
Here's the thing. I don't think it's a great fit out there because they're a gap-penetrating team. If you look at those guys, I got to football it up there a little bit.
I see players and names I've heard of and guys that have stats. That's what I see. What are you talking about?
And when they get those stats, they get them because they're in the right scheme. You don't get stats if you're in the wrong scheme. I think some Browns players will tell you that.
Nitty-gritty. We've got, folks, nitty-gritty football. It took to 7:46, but we're doing some nitty-gritty.
So, yeah, obviously he's a great run stopper. He's very, very good. I don't think it's anything on Baker Mayfield. Once again, we talked about loyalty earlier. I don't think it's a great fit out there, though. A great player, though. Scheme-wise, he's in more of a two-gapper with some ability to get upfield, but not a great fit for what they want to do out in L.A.
So gritty.
I'm thinking that's interesting just because of the fact that they could trade Ty Simpson out there to Tampa Bay if they wanted to, because they don't have that first-round pick because they traded it to the Browns.
Give me more grit.
I can't wait. Tampa's one of the teams. I got them circled. Must watch football with Baker Mayfield in this tenuous contract situation.
Texas.
No, I'm not. Once again, I was just going to say, and Ty Simpson doesn't do it for me either. You have under 15 starts in college.
Wait, aren't you the guy that likes Dylan Gabriel?
I do. I do.
He had 65 starts in college?
Well, and he also threw for 18,000 yards and 155 touchdowns. So he had some product.
Are you auditioning to be on the film crew for Dylan Gabriel? Is that what you're doing right now?
I was told I had to do it. So he doesn't have a crew. So maybe that's what I got to do. Get on the crew.
Crew of one. You and his fiance.
Texas A&M has announced Game Day Suites in Aggieland, a private complex of 50 customizable luxury suites located 7 miles west of Kyle Field. Buyers can customize. They can add big screen TVs, bars, golf simulators, a mini football fields on site, chefs. This isn't going to be ready till 2027, but the luxury suite is priced at $562,500.
All right, hold on. I'm confused. Luxury suites that aren't in the stadium?
It's away from the stadium. It's like a viewing experience for business. They're in their little promotion. They said it's for where business can be conducted.
Why wouldn't business be able to be conducted in actual Kyle Field in the suites that are there?
It's more money. And you know what? Social media reactions are brought to you by... Oh, I can't do that.
Scheiben Jewelers, Cleveland's premier jewelry store.
You can just say it yourself. There's a reason why if you came to the meetings, you'd know.
Okay. Well, High Top Sports said this on Twitter. They said Texas A&M went from recruiting players to recruiting boosters, and I think that is going to be the direction that college sports is heading in.
Look, everybody is going to look at the Indiana model because in 2 years they won a championship. They hired a coach. Now, football people knew who Cignetti was, but the average fan had no idea who this guy was. And all of a sudden, guys like Mark Cuban and a host of others decided, we care about football, we're going to spend the money. And then they win a national championship in 2 years. So now you have every other team that has some sort of billionaire, multi-millionaire boosters. They think this is going to be easy. They really think just spend the money, we'll win the championship. Like, pretty clearly the coaching is going to matter in this too, because it's not like Indiana had the most expensive roster. They just knew where they wanted to spend their money, and then they were able to coach them up with a bunch of guys that had played together too. I mean, that's important too in this Indiana.
Well,
Indiana
if you look at their team was really old. That was the key to the Indiana team. They had a bunch of guys.
People miss this.
That were 23 and older. And when there's a big difference between a 19-year-old and a 23-year-old man, and that's one of the things they did. Not only did they spend the money, but they had grown men playing for them, a lot older than most of the teams they played. Going back to it, the Sweets, it's the wild, wild west right now. College football is all about how do we get, going away from the pageantry of game day, how do we get more money to get the players, because these players are going in. I have very close friends who coach at the Power Four, and it's becoming exhausting because they're dealing with agents now. They're not dealing with parents, and it's got to be exhausting.
Yeah, and obviously teams have GMs now. Look, by the way, Texas A&M spent the money before.
Oh, they've always been they're big.
Since this has been legal and before it was legal, there was no shortage of money flowing through.
Oh, absolutely.
Place.
It's all there.
College Station.
All those Texas schools.
Mike Lombardi, the GM of UNC football and former Browns GM, has been
I think you could
placed...
say former UNC GM as well. You might as well throw that in there.
He's been placed on administrative leave effective immediately. This is reaction due to an HR complaint filed by a former UNC front office employee, which triggered an internal investigation. Bill Belichick's tenure at UNC has been so dysfunctional. I mean, Lombardi was one of Bill Belichick's first hires. And you have to remember, Bobby Petrino is the OC of UNC. Why didn't Bill Belichick just ride off into the sunset as the undisputed greatest NFL coach of all time?
I love it. I want to see how much more of a catastrophe this could be. But look, people did not think Belichick was going to even do this for another year. Like, people thought there was going to be a firing last year or just both of them mutually deciding to part ways because this was unbecoming of the greatest coach, at least that I thought, that I had certainly ever seen. And now we get another year of it and even more of a cloud of controversy because, shocker, Mike Lombardi is involved. I will say this about Mike Lombardi, one of the great guests in the history of this show, and everywhere I hear him, I love him. I love Mike Lombardi. I don't necessarily believe anything he's saying, but I love him as a guest. It's good for radio content.
Well, I'll tell you what, Bill Belichick has struggled, and I think for anything more, it's just a disconnect. When you talk about what's going on with kids nowadays and how he coaches, it just doesn't seem to match very well.
I just think it's funny that, like, first of all, he had no players drafted last year. They said they wanted to be the 33rd NFL team. And it's just been a debacle. Everyone was freaking out last year in their first game against TCU, and they've done nothing. They cycled through 3 quarterbacks last year. It's ridiculous to me that there aren't that many quarterback or coaches that can succeed at both the college and the NFL level. Like Nick Saban, he tried to make the jump to the NFL. He did make it to the playoffs with the Dolphins, but he went right back to college. And then Bill Belichick is just getting absolutely dethroned. He looks like an amateur out there coaching college football when in actuality we know he's one of the greatest football minds maybe ever.
Does anybody think they're going to be decent this year? Like, aren't they supposed to be really bad?
It's also the ACC. It's insane. Nobody respects anything other than the Big Ten and the SEC.
I'll tell you, I'll be watching North Carolina, and at least the first few games of the season. I will be watching what's happening in Boulder, Colorado. I'm a little nervous for Deion. I'm a little nervous for Prime. I thought he was going to walk away. I mean, quite literally, I thought just he could talk about managing, his physical situation, and they don't seem to have any money. I know people were ripping on their strength and conditioning. I thought that was a little unfair, but I'll be watching. Again, appointment viewing.
Is there anything better than Bobby Petrino, that picture? Oh my goodness gracious.
How does he not continue coaching with the neck brace?
I just never, I don't know can you make it back if you do that? I don't know if you can recover from that one.
Do you mean no matter what he does for the rest of his life, part of his coaching ensemble or attire is the neck brace?
Like the polo and then the neck brace.
When he recruits, even though they don't really do recruiting anymore in that sport.
Well, you don't wear it into the house, but you bring it in case and go, do you want to see it?
Yeah, come on.
Do you want to see the neck brace?
Does he show up on a motorcycle as well?
It's a little sketchy.
This is terrific. I mean, the opportunities are endless. Did he try to coach a game from the hospital bed?
No, that was Hugh Freeze.
Oh, that was Hugh Freeze
at Liberty.
See, this is I don't want college football to ever change.
He did it, and he was in the press box or in a suite, one of the big window-fronted suites.
This is why I love college football. I hope it never changes. I'm nervous that this stuff is going away. Anyway, thank you, John. That was
That's
terrific.
it for about last night.
Hey, we have got some Cavs stuff because everybody says Kobe Altman seems to be sleeping at the wheel, is not paying attention to what's going on in the NBA. There are some updates, though, overnight, and we have Jason Lloyd of The Athletic, who will join us in about 25 minutes with his hard-hitting commentary and his thoughts on where the Cavs go from here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. It's Anthony Lima.
I'm Jeff Thomas.
All the hits, grunts, strains, and sprains. Training camp coverage like nobody else. The Afternoon Drive. Weekdays starting at 2. 92.3 The Fan.
It's contest time. We call him Makani. Enter the code word BASE, B-A-S-E, 923thefan.com before 9 a.m. for your chance to win a 4-pack of tickets to 92.3 The Fan Night with the Lake Erie Crushers. That's Friday, August 7th at Forefront Field in Avon. Ken and I will be there along with Nick Wilson taking over all the in-game fun, including first pitch at 7 p.m. Are they going to let us just get on and start arguing about sports?
I think so.
Can we do that during the game?
I hope that at least in between innings, you can argue the calls on the field.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We can attack the umpire.
Yeah, he's right there.
Oh, this.
I think you guys should all do
delightful.
it first pitch though, like
simultaneously,
so I can grade it. Like we can do a ranking.
Oh, who did it best?
Yeah, who's the ranking?
Listen, after what I saw from Kerry Wood over the weekend in Wrigley, the behind the backer, that is all I've been working on for the last few days. Get tickets.
Because the forward one doesn't work very well.
No,
right?
Yeah, nobody wants to see me rifle one in at 37 miles per hour. Get tickets at lecrushers.com. It's all brought to you by the Lake Erie Crushers and Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. That's B-A-S-E at 92.3thefan.com before 9 a.m. We're going to pack the place. It's going to be so much fun. Hopefully, the Guardians got postponed yesterday, which you looked at the pitching matchup. Might have been a little nervous, given the power outage when it came to the
They
lineup.
don't just skip him, though.
I
He's
know.
still going to pitch.
I wish they would do that. It's like, no, yesterday was your chance. Now, move along. We don't get to see you in this series. That's not how they do baseball these days?
Not currently.
If I were the commissioner.
We'll see what they put into the new CBA next year.
All right. Coach Riz is in for Ken Carman today. We have Jason Lloyd coming up 17 minutes from now with the latest on all things Cavs. So Shams had a little nugget. I don't know if we would call it a spicy nougat, but we do have a little nugget when it comes to what Kobe Altman is. He's back in the lab. He's figuring things out. Here's Shams on ESPN.
DeMar DeRozan, 6-time All-Star. I'm told Miami, Denver, and Cleveland are among the teams interested in DeMar DeRozan, a scorer, playmaker, a clutch performer down the stretch of games. And two of those teams, and the Cavs and the Heat, were interested in DeMar DeRozan. But there is a player out west as well that is overlapping with DeMar DeRozan as far as interest from teams, and that's Klay Thompson of the Dallas Mavericks. I'm told the Heat are among several championship contending teams that are monitoring Klay Thompson's situation, have interest in Klay Thompson, potentially via trade or a buyout.
So it's this time of the year, audio courtesy of ESPN. That is Shams, mentioning that, the potential of somebody like DeMar DeRozan. Now, look, I think somebody like DeMar makes sense if you didn't have James Harden. Like, he makes zero sense. I know they're not the same type of players, but what I mean by that is, what is one thing that I think was, to the naked eye, was obvious, especially the further along the Cavs got last year in the playoffs. Coach, when you see on a football field a difference in athleticism, it pops. On a basketball court, as you get further along, like, I can't, as a Cavs fan, and if I am Kobe Altman, I can't think about going backwards in terms of athleticism and age. I just can't do it. You already have a team that lacks a lot of the stuff I see when I see all the other good teams. Like when I saw OG Anunoby, and we've always known that he is a freak athletically. He's just been hampered by injuries. Well, he was healthy against the Cavs. And to see that and to see how he could smother guys and guys like James Harden, Donovan Mitchell, Max Strus all have trouble throwing passes or dribbling around him. We don't have a dude like that. And you're going to need that, especially considering you've got these guards that are getting up there in years. James is going to be 37. Donovan, you're seeing some of the athleticism wane a little bit. I'm not going to make it sound like, it is he's turning into like an old player right before, but you could see some of the analytics that they trace have started to wane a little bit. You need athletic wings. That's why I'm on the Kuminga train. DeMar would be cheaper. I just don't think that makes sense for the Cavs right now.
Well, I mean, I don't know if the Cavs are in on Klay Thompson. I think you can be less athletic if you're a shooter, right? So Klay may be a shooter, but you're talking DeRozan is a slasher, right? And I'm with you. You got to have length, and that always, it's amazing. The NBA for me, looking at athleticism, there's not a league for me that it shows as you go farther in the playoffs when you lack it. When you don't have those guys who can lock people down or get their own bucket, it really shows up when you have to play half-court defensive basketball, guys who are able to cover and guys who are able to get their own bucket. And when you can't, it really, for me, that's like one of the most glaring from the regular season to the postseason. Boy, it shows up really, really fast.
Well, and people have got to now get out of their head. When we thought we were getting LeBron James, that's just, even at his age, that's just such a guy on another level because of mentally, he is just 3 steps ahead of NBA defenses. He's seen every coverage. He's the best passer I've ever seen. And people that watched Magic Johnson the whole time, they're like, LeBron might be even better. So that's gone. So you got to get that out of your head. And now when you eject that and get that out of your head, now we have to look at what's reasonable for this team. And obviously the Kuminga thing is hard because 2 teams have given up on him. There's a chance he could go back to Atlanta. But 2 teams have given up on him. And so that I've seen a lot of the conversation. Why would we want somebody that Golden State and Steve Kerr gave up on? And it's to me, that's irrelevant that those teams have given up on him. Part of it is contract, because of the contract he was looking to get. And his team at the age, he's still very young. I mean, he's 23 years old. He is such a freak athletically that I think it would be noticeable from moment one that he would walk into the building. Now, there's some considerations with you'd have to probably, for the money he's going to want, it would have to be a sign and trade, so you're going to lose more talent out the door. I'm just telling you that if you think that the Cavs can either run it back or just add some shooting and get into the Eastern Conference playoffs, they're just not good enough athletically. You saw how they couldn't get back on defense. You saw they couldn't make it uncomfortable, with the exception of Evan Mobley. They couldn't really make life tough when it comes to point of attack defense. I don't know. Could you see it with your naked eye that the Cavs just, while they had a lot of talent, that athleticism cost them big time in the playoffs?
Well, 2 things I saw: the athleticism and we got to get Kuminga or we got to get LeBron. So I don't care what sport it is. There's also an element of chemistry. So how do you get because when I look at the Knicks, they had some, obviously they had OG and those guys there had some great talent, but there was also great chemistry. So there's a balance still.
Well, and then they had the Villanova thing going on. So guys have played together.
So when you think about, for me, when I look at it, I think there's got to be some chemistry, which is important because I when they went into the playoffs, I thought the Knicks were going to get thumped. I really did. For me, I thought they were going to get thumped. They showed that not only are they talented, but they have tremendous chemistry. So I don't think the Cavs can just bring people in, athletes, without the idea, can they fit with what they want to do? And I don't know what that is. And obviously, how they coach and what they do and their systems and things like that. But that's where it is for me. They got to get longer on the wings, and they got to find guys, the idea of what is your role and star in your role. That's what these guys don't have, in my opinion.
Well, and if you watch Jonathan Kuminga, when it looked like the Knicks were on the ropes in the first round against Atlanta last year, like Kuminga's inconsistent and right now is just not a shooter. And it's been very disappointing, and that's why I've seen fans say, we want another guy that can't shoot the ball. The difference is he can drive. He gets by guys. And at his athleticism, it's just a different story. We haven't had any guys like that. Like Dean Wade had the size. He didn't have that kind of athleticism or skill. And Kuminga is so young that there's going to be a hope for development, along the way. But he's been a guy that can get 20 points. He's been able to do it off the bench in playoff series on 2 different teams. Both Golden State, when they played against Minnesota, he had a monster series. They lost the series, but he had a monster series against them. And he had a few good games against the Knicks. And, look around. Like, we talk about guys that can raise their play in the playoffs. I think this guy has the potential to be that, even at this stage of his career where he's not a shooter. Now, they have to figure things out, like what they would have to move to get him. And no matter what you do, and I think people need to understand this. I saw people saying yesterday, and they took our clip, Daryl was in for Ken, and we were talking about needing to trade Jared Allen. And people are like, I just don't understand why you would want to move Jared Allen. And I'm like, well, it is alchemy, right? Like, that's a big part of the NBA when you're only playing 5 guys. Like, yeah, Jared Allen could be really good, but does it make sense to have 2 non-7-foot big men who don't space the floor and who defenses don't have to guard on the perimeter? Does it really make sense? I don't think it does. And I think it's been proven in the playoffs that has a ceiling. And so I do think that if we're all on the same page, the Cavs aren't good enough now, why would you be of the mindset that you want to run it back? Now, the other thing you mentioned is the thing about chemistry. And look, at this stage, like, you're just not going to have what the Knicks had with the Villanova stuff and, their ability to play together for a full year, even though they had a new coach. And, that was the same team from the year before, basically. I do not think the Cavs got enough credit for throwing a wrench in their entire operation. And now that was by their own, they volunteered that. Like, I'm not saying they should play the victim or anything, but I do think they should be given credit. Like, they brought in James Harden, who's a very unique player. He played only 26 regular season games. Outstanding, by the way. He was terrific. And most teams that reshuffle the deck, the chairs on the deck like that late in the season, they don't get to the conference finals in the NBA. I do think there's some crap. I'm not saying put up a banner, not saying anything like that, but I do think that was hard. And I think given a full year of guys playing together, I think that could help.
Well, when I look at Jared Allen, though, I've heard that take. He should go. And here's my pushback on that. When you talk about Jared Allen, not just him, but a guy like that, when you talk about what the Knicks had people who started in their role. I'm going to go back because I'm old. I'm going to go back to Dennis Rodman, who would have 30 rebounds and no points. Starring in your role makes a big, especially in the NBA where there's only 5 guys playing. So right now, when I look at Jared Allen, I know his role. I know what he can bring. Sometimes I don't know what Mobley gives you. And I'm not saying Mobley or Jared. I'm just saying the idea of having roles on a basketball team seem to be very, very important. That's what I don't get out of Mobley right now, is I'm not sure what his role is on this team.
Oh, this is a great thing to talk about with our next guest, Jason Lloyd of The Athletic. Is there going to be way too much responsibility and pressure going forward on that man that you just brought up, Evan Mobley, and also more residue from more fallout from the LeBron decision? Where do the Cavs go from here? We'll get Jason Lloyd of The Athletic next on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. It's Anthony Lima.
us and 92.3 The Fan on the Odyssey app. Headline Sports News every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
Yeah, so I don't think DeMar DeRozan makes all that much sense right now. I think the Cavs, part of their pivot needs to be athleticism. And, we've been avoiding the wing position for way too many years. Yeah, LeBron James would have helped, but he chose to go elsewhere. And to talk about that and so much more on the Weishart Right, We Make It Right, Call Cal Rate Hotline, Jason Lloyd from The Athletic. Welcome in, Jason. Appreciate you coming in.
Good morning, guys. How you doing?
See how much nicer we are when you know who is not in here? He would have already been combative. I'm interested and excited to hear what you have to say.
Nobody misses him. We all know that.
All right, so even though he's listening, he's getting his youth football team ready. All right, so the residue of the LeBron thing, I know. I'm getting it from every corner. Move on. He doesn't care about all right, whatever. The Cavs, they have to move on. I know people expected an immediate pivot. Where's the big signing? Where's the big trade? What is your expectation for what is next with the Cavs?
I mean, realistically, there's not a ton out there, right? Like it's the end of July. There's nothing left in free agency that I have to make a trade of some kind. I thought Fedor yesterday on the midday show did a nice job of laying out sort of the complications of the Kuminga. That's probably their best option at this point if they can figure out the financial side of it. But there is no great option. Like, it's the end of July, and that's just sort of the reality of it. And it's not, that's what I wrote over the weekend was I don't fault the Cavs for not blowing up their roster to try and acquiesce to a 41-year-old at the end of his career who's not the same player that he was. Like, I never advocated, bringing Anthony Davis to make him happy. That was never my thing. But my thing is also hey, it's the end of July. Now you're no better than you were at the end of the season. And the rest of the East is rapidly improving. So it's not a great spot. There is nothing ideal. There's no ideal move for them to make. That's just the reality where they're at. There's just not a lot of options out there.
Jason, they didn't get LeBron James. What pressure does that put on Evan Mobley? From a fan's perspective, I've always viewed him as people think he's a unicorn. I think he's a really good player. I don't think of him as a unicorn. What are the expectations for him now? Are they expecting more out of him next year? And can he do that?
I mean, they have to tell him, you be you. You continue to improve and don't worry about the outside noise. That's what you have to tell him as an organization. The reality is, anytime he has a bad night, people are going to look around and go, well, you'd rather have that than Jaylen Brown and LeBron? All right, well, nice job there. It's through no fault. Like, the Cavs didn't intentionally do it, obviously, but inadvertently, he has become kind of a polarizing player now for fans of, well, you could have had Giannis, which, by the way, I never advocated that either. I didn't think Giannis had no interest in signing an extension with Cleveland. You really want to trade Evan for 1 year, Giannis? But the Jaylen Brown thing was interesting to me. I've been a biggest defender of Evan of anybody in Cleveland over the years. I think he's really, really good. But I did look at Jaylen and go, man, I don't know. I think I'd pull the trigger on that. Aside from LeBron, just because they've been so wing deficient for so many years, and I know Jaylen went for a lot less than the market you would think that he would have gone for. But that's the one guy that I look at and thought, man, I think that would have made a lot of sense here. But it puts a lot of pressure on Evan now to deliver, and he's a excellent player. And now I do believe that there's a pressure on him to sort of emerge as an elite, top 10, top 12 player in this league. And he's not quite on that level yet. But it's inadvertently changed the game a little bit for Evan in this town because they didn't want to include him in any of those trades.
All right, getting away from Evan, when I look at Jalen Tyson, for me, I thought he had a really good, regular season, and kind of went away in the playoffs. Why did he go away in the playoffs? And at 6'6", the Cavs are constantly looking for length. Is he a guy they have expectations for next year as well?
Yeah, I think he started to vanish after the Harden deal. I don't know that that their games were a great fit last year. And that's one thing that they're going to have the benefit of a full season to try and figure out, is how to get more out of Jalen when the ball is in James's hands. And that's a job for Kenny, because you're right. That's a young athletic wing that they desperately need at this stage, but they got to figure out how he fits now alongside James and Donovan and Evan and Jarrett. I mean, to me, he would be, if the season starts today, I believe he'd probably be the starting three. And so they just have to figure out how to make that work. And he has to figure out how to fit his game alongside those other guys. And the benefit of a training camp and the practices, you don't get a ton of practice time once you get into the regular season, particularly, after the trade deadline. Guys are tired, they're banged up. It's a long year. So you just don't get a lot of time on the court together in non-game situations. So that'll be big for him, September, October, to try and make that fit a little bit better than what it did during this last season.
Jason Lloyd joining us on the hotline. It's been 2 months and 2 days since the Cavs were eliminated in humiliating fashion, and that means it's been 2 months and 2 days since the owner, Dan Gilbert, took to social media to say that the Cavs are nowhere close. So what do you think Dan Gilbert is thinking today?
Oh, that's a great question. He can't be happy just because, Dan is not very vocal anymore, right? Like he used to be before he had some of the health issues. He was very active on social media, not so much now, although more than he was for a couple of years. But the whole thing with Dan had always been post the stroke was, even within the organization, you didn't hear from him often, but when you heard from him, it was time for action. And he's back more now. I'm talking about like when he was kind of removed from the role and sort of easing his way back in. Now he's very much active and a part of it. But he is sort of the rocket fuel of the organization. That's been laid out to me multiple times over the years, that, he's sort of the compass and says, this is where we're going. This is how we get here. And, he did. This roster is no different than when he sent that tweet, for the most part. I mean, Malik Thomas, okay. Hezonja, okay, fine. But this is basically the exact same roster as 2 months ago. So, yeah, he's probably not real happy. And I don't know, that's not necessarily that he's not real happy within his own people, the organization. I think, I don't know what they were led to believe from LeBron and Rich and all them. I don't know if they thought it was a done deal and that's why they didn't make any moves. I have no idea. But just the overall general tone, I'm sure he's not happy with where things stand.
Jason, I know that you have gone on to rip the Miami market, but Dan Lebatard down in Miami, he thought that there was some suspicious stuff going on when it came to LeBron ending in Philly. Should Dan Gilbert call for an investigation over potential cap circumvention because of the Topps deal and his relationships with some big time influential Philly people?
I mean, did LeBron do anything wrong?
In terms of taking money from Topps?
And
Ruben?
Yeah. I misunderstood where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't followed the Topps thing all that closely. I know that's
Come on, that's
there.
where it broke. Jason, it wasn't Shams who broke the story. It was Topps. I used to have in 1990. I had Topps baseball cards. I also had Don Russ baseball cards. I haven't seen Don Russ break a story yet.
When you talk about like the cap circumvention stuff, this isn't Kawhi an aspiration. Like he's a veteran player who they maintained all along. Money wasn't going to play an option in this. Or money wasn't going to play a role in this.
Well, easy to say if you're making a lot of money elsewhere.
He's made money throughout his career.
He hasn't made that Topps money until recently.
But, that's the whole thing. That's the part that I think is most shocking is, I mean, how many times over the last year did I come on with you guys and say, I thought Cleveland would be an option, but they got to figure out this money thing because I don't think there's any world in which LeBron would take a minimum deal, particularly from Cleveland. And then he wound up taking a minimum deal. Like that part of this whole thing is startling, that a player of his caliber and his accomplishment would take a minimum deal, but that doesn't mean he necessarily did anything wrong. I don't think he did anything wrong.
Are you, Jason? I'm sorry to hog this, but now I've got to get going here. The amount of insider stuff, which is hilarious considering nobody knew that this was going to be Philly, maybe a select few. The amount of insider stuff that have put out, if Darius Garland was here, LeBron James, there would have been a much better shot of him being a Cavalier. What say you?
I think that's disingenuous because, I mean, if you go back a couple of years ago, the story that Joe and I and Shams wrote when Shams was with us at The Athletic, we wrote after the Boston game that they were looking to try and get Darius out of Cleveland. So this had been multiple years in the making. And, Rich went on the podcast and said he told Darius, this is going to be your last year in Cleveland. And that's fine. That's your prerogative as the agent, the player, and whatever else. But then when you then turn around and say, well, had they had Darius, it may have ended differently. I don't think that that's necessarily fair to the Cavs. And that's why, what I wrote over the weekend was like, this whole thing is nuanced and complicated because everything with LeBron is nuanced and complicated. So, I think that there's a little bit of fault for everybody. But the idea that had they held on to Darius, it was time for that to end. And I thought the Cavs had valid reasons for moving on from Darius. And, I agree with the idea that they probably don't go as far as they did without that deal. So I can't get behind that. I don't think that's very fair to say that if they still had Darius, maybe LeBron comes.
Jason, as you watch the Cavs and see the Cavs and this whole offseason, I think people forget, at least from my perspective, that they were in the Final Four of the NBA. And obviously the roster is what it is, and it's staying the same. With this roster and how they're made up, how do they go from what people have written as their narrative and try to get over the top? And can they with how they're constructed right now?
It's hard. It's going to be hard. And, yeah, they made the Final Four, and congratulations on them. But yet the rest of the East is getting better. And, they would not be probably one. They wouldn't be in my top three to get back to the Eastern Conference Finals. Doesn't mean they can't do it. I think that there's a separation of class in the East now where there's a couple of really good teams at the top, and I'd put probably the Knicks and Philly in that. And then there's a little bit of a chasm, and then there's a lot of decent teams really clumped together. And, I'd probably put I don't know the order, but I mean, I think the Cavs are in that clump with Boston, with Detroit, with Toronto. There's probably 6 or 7 teams that feel like they're a top 6 team, maybe 8 teams that feel like they're a top 6 team in the East. And it's going to be, I think, highly competitive next year. Because the Cavs didn't really improve the roster, at least to this point. We'll wait and see if they have any magic left up their sleeve. And, any improvement's going to have to come from internally. Well, Evan, what we talked about at the start of this, Evan getting better and making some sort of leap. James fitting in a little bit more with a full training camp and a full season. James being a little bit more acclimated to the offense. I mean, there were games in the playoffs where they wouldn't have won it without James, and there were games in the playoffs where he basically lost it for them. And I just think that's life with James Harden. That's what you're going to have to deal with. There's going to be nights where he plays well, and there's going to be nights where he's got 8 turnovers and 6 of them are in the stands, and he's not shooting it well, and he doesn't hardly move on defense. So it's sort of the volatility of where they're at with the roster. But I mean, I give them full credit for making the finals, for making the conference finals, but I don't think they would be at the top of my list right now as a pick to get back there. I just think the rest of the East is improving.
All right, Jason Lloyd with us. We'll pivot quickly to football training camp starting this week, and all eyes are going to be on this quarterback situation. What's your level of excitement? Yeah, even though Tom Monkey keeps saying 2 NFL starting quarterbacks are on this roster, yet almost everybody around the league thinks they are 100% drafting one with their first pick next year. How do you think that is going to go with Todd Monken in this quarterback competition?
I'm fascinated to see it. I'm tired of talking about it. It's just been relentless, and there's been a lot of nonsense. So I'm glad that we're finally back in the field.
What's the nonsense?
I don't have. What's that?
What's the nonsense?
No, we're not doing that. Listen, nothing's changed, right? Every time you have me on, we talk about this. Every time I say, if you're going to make me pick, if my options are Deshaun and Shedeur, I'll take Shedeur every time. I don't see any path to anything of any sort of future with Deshaun, so why even bother? Why bother? But I don't have a lot of faith in either of these guys. No, I don't. I'm in the class that thinks they're probably drafting quarterback in 27, and it's up to Shedeur to prove everybody wrong on that. I don't expect Todd Monken to say anything differently than what he's already said. What do you want him to say? Boy, this is rough. Of course he's going to come out and build him up, and he should. Is the head coach. But, we'll see. Finally, we've gotten to the point where it's back on the field and these guys can compete, and we'll see how it goes. I have no interest in watching Deshaun Watson take another snap for the Browns. There's too much history. There's too many skeletons there. There's too much baggage. I thought they should have moved on from him. I don't want to hear that they couldn't afford to move on from with the cap. Yes, they could have. If the Broncos could figure it out with Russ Wilson, there was a path. They chose not to take it. He's here. Okay, fine. But it doesn't mean I want to see him on the field.
All right. Jason, who does not want to go on record about the, quote, nonsense. Interesting.
Yeah.
Normally.
Oh, we're out of time. Too bad.
Oh, yeah. You. What a stall tactic.
We got an extra 3 minutes.
You know what? We've just been granted 20 more minutes. Nonsense time. Take it away, Jason. No, we appreciate it, Jason. We'll see you. All right. There he is. Jason Lloyd on the Wise Heart Right. We make it right. Call Kyle Wright hotline. Didn't want to talk about the nonsense. Did want to talk about wanting and having no interest in Deshaun Watson. We will react to all of that, plus the trade that didn't happen that he thinks cost us LeBron James. We'll react to it next on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. Well, it is an honor and a pleasure to consistently talk about the team in town that can truly help you when you are in a bind.
Listen to 92.3 The Fan on the Odyssey, iHeartRadio, and TuneIn app.
I've been the biggest defender of Evan of anybody. I think he's really, really good. But I did look at Jalen and go, man, I don't know. I think I'd pull the trigger on that. Aside from LeBron, just because they've been so wing deficient for so many years. And I know Jalen went for a lot less than the market you would think that he would have gone for. But that's the one guy that I look at and thought, man, I think that would have made a lot of sense here. It puts a lot of pressure on Evan now to deliver. He's an excellent player. I do believe that there's a pressure on him to sort of emerge as an elite top 10, top 12 player in this league. And he's not quite on that level yet.
That was Jason Lloyd of The Athletic. Previous segment, if you missed it, as always, go to the Odyssey app, hit the rewind function. You will not hear Jason Lloyd commenting on the, quote, quarterback nonsense, but he did have something that my co-host today wants to hit on. We'll do that at 9 o'clock because I saw your eyebrows. They were doing something. What do eyebrows do? Do they furrow?
Well, your whole brow furrows.
Furrows, yeah.
That's the forehead
I saw it.
included.
It was a furrow then. It was a full-fledged furrow.
Yeah, I saw it, and I'm like, hold your thoughts. We definitely need to hold it. We'll do that coming up at the top of the hour in 15 minutes. Coach Riz is in for Ken Carman today, and Jason Lloyd, it sounded like to me that Jason thought that LeBron might be here had they have pulled off the trade. Now, this one was a tough one. When we talked about it, I kind of had to get off the fence on this one. There's normally most basketball opinions. I'm like, this is how I feel. Core belief, core hoops ideology, ball knower. Like, I'm on it. And Jaylen Brown for Evan Mobley, I was like, ugh, what do you do? This was a tough one for me. And I think ultimately out of the desperation, which you never want to be making moves out of desperation, but given the window of Donovan Mitchell and me seeing some of that athleticism wane, but understanding you have to pay him that money because what other top 15 guys are you going to be able to get? Well, here's one of them. Jaylen Brown, I think at times over the last 3 years has been a top 15 player. Analytics, they do not agree. I know in Cleveland we're having kind of a war with analytics right now thanks to Kenny Atkinson's comments during the postseason and all things Browns. Even with Dee Podesta gone, we're still dwelling on analytics all the time. Everybody is now around sports. It's the buzzword. It's been the buzzword.
Should be a guide, not a determining factor. Should be a guide.
Right. Well, you can't have a front office if you're not open to any data that you possibly can. With all of that said, the reason it was tough is because I saw some things out of Evan in the playoffs. Very inconsistent, very spotty, but some of the things I saw, I felt like it was the first time I had seen them, meaning, oh, there could be more of this. If everything goes the right way, there could be a lot more of this. And that is the stuff that is probably the reason that if you believe the reporting, and I do, and things that I've heard, Oklahoma City wants to go all out to get Evan Mobley. Do we think Oklahoma City has a pretty good handle on front office operations and talent evaluations? They're the best to do it in the league for like the last how many years, right? Their GM is probably the best in the sport. And they want Evan Mobley. Why do they want Evan Mobley so much? Not because he's a finished product now and this is what they think he'll be 5 years from now. No, they see a trajectory. Not just a phony one. We could do this with Colin Sexton and no. Certain guys, they hit a wall, and that's who they are. And there are a bunch of guys in this league that actually never get better. It's not all linear development. I think Evan's going to get better. I just don't know if it's going to be better enough this year during this Donovan window.
Well, he's going into year 6. So I've constantly said the same thing about Evan Mobley. Like he's still still growing. He's going into year 6. So how much more growth is there going to be? I still think there's some. But as I said earlier, when I was asking Jason, where can he get to? And are those expectations maybe out of reach and unfair to him? Because I still think he's a really good player. But my kind of thought process is always he's so young. He's still a young guy, but he's been in the league 6 years now. And when does he make that move? And once again, for me, when I watch I watch everything. I love sports. I'll watch whatever's on. When you watch the NBA regular season compared to the playoffs, the weaknesses are so glaring. And one of the things you got to be able to do, in my opinion, is get a bucket and get a bucket on your own. And I don't know if Evan Mobley can always do that. Now,
he can't. No, now, Evan Mobley does not have a set of proven moves that in playoff basketball, which is very different from the regular season, I think we've all learned. In the playoffs, you're playing in a phone booth. Guys have the scouting reports. They know all your best moves. They know all your weaknesses. He, with less than 30 seconds to go, get the ball to Evan Mobley, get out of the way, he's going to produce a bucket. No, he's not even going to produce a good shot. That's just not in his arsenal right now.
So you got it. So you can get, once again, starring in your role, very athletic elite defender, rebounder,
Yes.
can be a second or third option.
Yeah.
If he gets a matchup he likes. All right, well then maybe in that role you understand that role, he stars in that role, then other people have to do things. That would be my thought with him. I think he's outstanding. I just think I have to get past he's still going to ascend. He's in year 6. Like, how much more is there to go?
When you see somebody like Karl Anthony Towns, who was, again, immensely talented, number 1 overall pick, it took him a decade to get to this level, and he's still inconsistent. But you saw it in this playoff run. Stuff that I don't think people knew he could do, kind of like playing point guard from the pivot, like pretty impressive stuff. Taking on defensive challenges. Like, you do see some guys have the capacity to add a little more every year.
Well, I think that has to do with, I would argue that it has to do with his teammates, and it has to do with the chemistry. And you're right, he can shoot it really well. That helps him, right? The ability to shoot the 3 has really helped him. Lets him beat people off the bounce and all that kind of stuff. But for me, I think that's, once again, that goes to he's a part of what they do. Jalen Brunson's the get a bucket guy, right? So he gets the buckets, but Towns has his role. And once again, he stars in that role. And I just think, do they want Evan Mobley to be something that he's not and something that he's unable to do? Doesn't mean he can't be a stud. Doesn't mean he can't be a star.
He is a stud.
But can he be? Yeah. Can he be a bigger stud? I don't know. I just think that maybe if you understand what his role is and understand what he's good at, he'll be even better.
Josh, you've been waiting forever. I feel bad. What's up, man? How you doing, Josh?
No, you're good. You're good. I'm doing all right. All right. Well, first and foremost, the first thing that I want to call for is LeBron's from here. He's talked about how Northeast Ohio shaped him and made him and all this, so many times. Yet 3 times in his career, he's chosen other places over us.
You'd think we'd learn.
Mitchell, here's the contrast, though. Donovan Mitchell, when he was traded here, since the minute he got here, everything, the narrative has been he can't wait to get out of here. He wants to go home to New York. He yada, 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 yada. But he keeps saying and showing by his actions that he loves it here and that he wants to make this place his home. So I want to commend him and I want to give him love for giving us love, because nobody has been doing that. Everybody's like forgetting that he chose us.
And Josh, yet every time I bring this up, I can't believe the reaction I get. Like, it's like, well, he's not good enough. Okay, well, so every guy has to be the best player in the game, or you don't love him?
He's a top 10 player in the league. Come on. Like, that's nutty. And then one more thing is John posed a question to me while I was on hold about moves. And obviously Trey Murphy's a pipe dream. That's probably not, no way to make that happen. But a little more realistic, Herb Jones, I would be okay. I also wouldn't mind hitting up Denver and seeing if we could pry Cam Johnson away.
I think the whole league is
shed some salary.
Yeah, I think the whole league. Thanks, Josh. I appreciate it. I think the whole league is looking at the Denver situation very closely, because their owner's basically been on record saying they're not going to go crazy into the second apron and incur the tax is so prohibitive at that point. So I think people are looking at all sorts of options over there. The Peyton Watson, even Aaron Gordon. I don't know. Like, there's going to be all sorts of probing into that, and I think there will be plenty of competition there. All right, we'll put the Cavs conversation down for a little bit. 216-474-0092. One more hour to go, and Jason Lloyd said something on the air when it came to the quarterbacks of the Cleveland Browns, who will be at camp competing this week, that my co-host couldn't believe. A furrowed eyebrow in the process. We'll explain when we come back on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
This is an audio. thefan.com or use the Odyssey app.
If you're going to make me pick, if my options are Deshaun and Shedeur, I'll take Shedeur every time. I don't see any path to anything of any sort of future with Deshaun, so why even bother? Why bother? But I don't have a lot of faith in either of these guys. No, I don't. And I'm in the class that thinks they're probably drafting quarterback in 27, and it's up to Shedeur to prove everybody wrong on that. I don't expect Todd Monken to say anything differently than what he's already said. What do you want him to say? Boy, this is rough. Of course he's going to come out and build him up, and he should.
That was Jason Lloyd. If you missed it, again, rewind function on the Odyssey app. He weighed in.
That's powered by Integrated Restorations.
And that is what we absolutely love this time of year.
Is getting our powered buys in.
Yeah, heck yeah. Appreciate that. Appreciate the support. No Ken today. No Ken this week. We've got Lance Riesland, who is in. We call him the coach. He's going to be covering training camp. He's going to be out there starting tomorrow, right?
Correct.
You will be out there tomorrow. You'll be giving us all the updates. You'll be doing interviews. You'll be tandem reporting with Daryl Ryder, our Browns beat reporter. He was in yesterday. So, look, it's the one storyline that most everybody is going to care about. If you were to power rank them, this is the one, right? The quarterback competition. Even when the quarterbacks are perceived to be this bad, which is, I would think if you were to poll people, even in Cleveland, most would assume, oh boy, this could be a rough year quarterback-wise. Maybe there's some hope with Shedeur because he only played 7 starts last year. They did not get him ready to play football. It was a ridiculous situation all the way around. The team stunk around him, and the embattled coach ends up getting fired at the end of the year. Now, we've got a real offseason. Now we got a real quarterback competition, not whatever the joke that somehow they were in that predicament last year with 4 QBs battling for 2 jobs. It was just weird. So, given all of that, we know the microscope is going to be on the quarterbacks in this situation. You heard what Jason Lloyd just said, which I think is being echoed by most. Not you, though. You seem to take issue with the thought that one guy's been bad and is a veteran, and it's been like 5 to 6 years since he's been any good, so why bother? I've been hearing you from moment one talk about this. Why are you so passionate that it isn't just start the younger dude?
Well, first of all, it starts with, again, what is the ultimate goal? The ultimate goal's got to be win games. The ultimate goal can't be what it gives you for the future. It's got to be, what did you give me against Jacksonville? That's where it starts for me. It always starts with winning. Then it starts with, if you go in with the idea that he stinks, and the thing that I get over and over and over again, we know what he can do. No, we don't. We know what he can do in Kevin Stefanski's offense. We know that he struggled. Everything that people say about him is absolutely right. He struggled in his time here in Cleveland. He's not taking a snap. He's not taking a snap with live bullets, with pads on, in this scheme, with Todd Monken, Schweitzer, this scheme, having more people. He's never taken a snap. Now, that doesn't mean Shedeur won't be the quarterback, but if you go in with the idea of I don't want to see Deshaun, I know what he can do. No, you don't. You don't have any idea what he can do now. Now, he might be bad. That's not saying, but I'm saying when you go in, there's that, once again, that conditional, that bias, that conditional bias where I'm going to say, no matter what it is. Now, if you go to practice and you say he stinks, he's going to make some bad throws. And those will be the ones that will be posted. Those will be the ones people talk about. They're not going to look at the entire practice. They're going to look at what they want to see. That's the problem I have. That's what you have to do as an evaluator. Say, I'm going to take this whole thing. Now, I'm going in with, I'm not having conditional bias. I'm not having any bias. If Shedeur plays well, I'm going to say he plays well. If he needs some work, I'm going to say this is what I thought he did poorly. It's the same thing with Deshaun Watson. But I am going to evaluate what they're both doing moving forward. Now, that's what happened in the past. That doesn't mean anything to Todd Monken. If Todd Monken was hired to win games and not be a pawn for the next coach, then that's what he's thinking as well. He doesn't care who the quarterback is, who helps me win in Jacksonville. That's been lost here in Cleveland with the Browns. Winning has to be the priority, in my opinion.
Well, so this is what I find so fascinating about this. 216-474-0092. Should they just start Shedeur because he's younger and younger guys tend to have more promise? I think this is the difference big time in a player that's drafted first round versus fifth round. Because I could see you based on what you just said, I think you would be consistent with this messaging regardless of where quarterbacks were drafted. But we do know that guys that are drafted earlier have more of a leash. There's more of an investment in an organization. And in this case, the full investment, one of the all-time investments, even though he wasn't a draft pick of the Browns, was obviously Deshaun Watson. But the owner is on record saying it was a failure. They ripped his signage from the stadium. They don't market Deshaun Watson. If he's the starter week 1, you won't see Deshaun Watson in any of the team's marketing on social media. You won't, because there's baggage there. And I thought because the organization had moved on from him, maybe not physically, but the ethos of the Browns, it kind of felt to me like they had moved on from him. So I had discounted him all along. The best thing to ever happen to him is Todd Monken, because Todd Monken is coming in thinking like you. He is coming in going, all right, you guys hired me. I'm not here to tank. I'm not here. This is my first and obviously only shot to be a head coach in the NFL. I've been passed over so many times. Like, I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to coach him up. I don't care what anybody else wants. Now, in some situations, the front office dictates, hey, you got a guy that's drafted in the first round. We're going to make sure. We're going to absolutely make sure so we don't let a guy go and he becomes Sam Darnold years from now and wins a Super Bowl. Like, we can't have that happen on our watch. That is immaterial in this case to Todd Monken, who I think is in 100% agreement with you.
Well, and all that stuff you said about the signage, in my mind, I'm thinking, I don't care.
Right,
I care about none
Todd
of that.
Monken doesn't care if the signage was ripped down.
I could care about any of that now.
Lima, the sports talk show host, I'll do whole shows about the signage.
Now, here's the thing, too. When you think about what they're trying to do, and if you're saying, so I will say this without hesitation, from high school, college, pro, if there's not alignment from top to bottom and your football guy's not making the football decisions, it's made from above you that doesn't make football decisions, you're not going to win anyway. So if somebody's being told to play because where they were drafted or how much money they make or whatever it may be, not on merit, you're in big trouble anyway, right? Because in the end, players know. In the end, we always talk about players coach. You know what a players coach is? A guy who maximizes my talent and helps me win. A guy in the NFL, maximizing my talent, gets me the next contract, helps us win. That's what a player's coach is. It's not about being best friends. So for me, none of that means anything. The idea that we have to see what he can do. That's what the spring. This is about winning football games, and it could be Shedeur, but the idea if it's Deshaun that I'm not as excited, that doesn't make any sense to me. If you're thinking what's best for the football team, winning games is the best thing for the football team, and whoever does that, right? Don't have bias. Whoever gives you the best chance, that's who you want as your quarterback at every position, not just quarterback.
But this is what is so interesting about this situation here to me is that in most cases, when you trade Myles Garrett and maybe Denzel Ward is going to get traded, normally the front office, while they'll never tell a coach to lose games because that's insane and guys get injured if you're going to go out there thinking that way, that's just not how any coach would treat it. But typically there would be the dictation, hey, play younger guys. This is about developing. We're not a Super Bowl team this year. We're not in contention. But the minute you hire Todd Monken, he is not a puppet. That guy is not. He is a guy that when he is interviewing for the Browns job, and he told us as much when he came in studio, like, you got his unbridled honesty. He was not trying to curry favor to get the job, say a bunch of nice things about all these different guys so he can get the job and cozy. That's just not Todd Monken. I can't see that in a million years. So no front office is going to tell Todd Monken at 60-some years old, this late in his career, nobody's going to tell Todd Monken who to play at quarterback. That's just not happening.
Well, and there's comfort in his own skin because he's done it so long. He's had success. So there's Stenson Bennett at Georgia. There's Lamar Jackson, who I think he has turned into a top 10 pocket guy besides being outstanding outside the pocket. So he has credibility in what he's saying. And when you tell a guy like Todd Monken, you hope that was a non-negotiable. And again, when people say they're tanking without tanking, you don't get to turn it on then. You say, you know what, we got our draft pick now. We're gonna win. No, you've practiced poor practice habits, your enthusiasm, your attention to detail. Who wants to come play for a team when things go wrong? We're going to tank so we can get new picks. That's not how it works. Great organizations don't rebuild. They retool. And the Browns have to get to the point where that happens because they're winning. You retool because you're winning, not because you're building draft capital, not because you're constantly trying to get new players. When things go bad, we'll get new ones. No, it's grinding it out, putting a guy in charge, and allowing him to make the football decisions.
Let's go to the phones. Chuck in Warrensville Heights, next up on the Fan. How are you, Chuck?
Yo, what's up, fellas? Thanks for taking my call, man. Hey, for one, monking ain't with the funkin'. This guy, he's a winner, all right? The reason Kevin Stefanski's gone, I mean, who has he developed as a quarterback out of all those quarterbacks? Nobody. As soon as Baker leaves, does great. So we brought this guy in to develop the young guys, and I just got
hold on, Chuck. Hold on. I got to slow you down there. Baker has been a roller coaster in and of himself, right? Like he's had the ups, he's had the downs. He's been a top 10 quarterback. He's been one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. So now, if you want to put that on Stefanski and say that Stefanski was unable to permanently, unlock things for Baker, then you could say that. Coach, do you agree that he has not developed any quarterbacks?
No,
I'll let you back in, Chuck, in a second.
I think what he's done is Kevin Stefanski maximizes quarterbacks within his system. I think he's done a good job of that. If you look at Joe Flacco, if you look at some of these guys who have had success under Stefanski, the idea of better is not. It's different. And Todd Monken's offense allows you to get better a little bit more than Kevin Stefanski's, but he has developed within his system, I think, very well.
And within his system is why across the league these guys can't develop under Stefanski. Now, what I want to say is this: no quarterback with 29 sacks. Okay, Naima, you said that his stats was terrible. Well, he had to throw the ball away about 7% of the time.
Oh, real quick, Chuck. All the quarterbacks' stats in Cleveland were terrible last year. I want to be fair to Shedeur. They were all terrible. Now, Shedeur's happened to be the worst, but they were all bad. I mean, obviously.
Well, let's talk about the context. Why worse? Well, by the time he got the offensive line, those guys was tore up. Okay, Harold Fannin went down. Njoku went down. 32nd is what his tackles ranked last year, giving up 21 sacks. That's terrible. And then his number one target is supposed to be Jerry Jeudy. 50 catches, 600 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Terrible.
So what rookie that's coming in without the support? The quarterback position is most important about the guys around you across all leagues, okay? These guys around me got to be good. He had no support in all those facets, got better this year. That's why Shedeur is going to have a better year this year.
All right. Yeah, thanks, Chuck. Look, everything Chuck said, 100% true. Everything was pretty rotten around Shedeur Sanders last year. I'd say the same about Dylan Gabriel, and I thought Dylan went up against better defenses too. I thought Shedeur got the easier part of the schedule. But it doesn't matter. I'm not evaluating permanently Shedeur on those 7 games. That's why I'm excited. I know it doesn't sound like it sometimes in my feuds with his fans. I am excited to see, because there is a part of me that thinks Shedeur, the competition part of it with him, I think he actually might be, even though he hadn't had to compete before, there is something about him. I'm trying to put my finger on it that I think he might rise to the occasion. I am curious to see how it goes. I'm not throwing him out of the NFL based on the 7 games last year. I'm just throwing it out there, man. He has a lot of stuff he's got to get way better at. All right, we'll pick this up. 216-474-0092. We have one national pundit who thinks the Browns need to start one person before we get to the other, who thinks he's certainly going to see both of them, and an investigation into a draft pick that will never play for the Cleveland Guardians. We have our private eye on the scene because I need someone to make sense of this. That's coming up next here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. Hey, everybody. Anthony Lima here. So excited to share my brand new partnership with
and check things out. That will happen on Friday. Listen to The Fan Rewind weeknights 11 to midnight. All the best segments from all our shows, and can always listen on the Odyssey app. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
Got to do a Carson Wentz discussion off the air.
Yeah, that wasn't on the bingo card.
We have
for sure.
been your home for Carson Wentz in Cleveland.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember this. When the Browns were just really, really bad, which I guess whatever.
All the years.
I know, it's tough to parse over time. But when they were really bad and we had just started the show, I was kind of doing the thing I do now. Every quarterback but the ones we have, right? And so I saw Carson Wentz come into the league immediately and was awesome. When he started out, I saw Deshaun Watson come into the league immediately. And maybe it's one thing I've got to learn. Like maybe, Jaden Daniels, like he came in the league immediately. Good. CJ Stroud immediately. But clearly there's a push and pull and, teams kind of figure guys out. With Carson Wentz, I just think the back issue, like the back thing was a pretty big deal. It doesn't get brought up enough. Like he basically broke his back. It's hard to come back from that. And then I was like, sounded like from his teammates that he couldn't really handle having his backup win the Super Bowl. Remember, Carson was like on the way to winning an MVP. And then he goes down and his backup wins the Super Bowl. And I think it's easy to discount, like psychologically, that would mess with you a little bit. It kind of would.
Well, I'll say this, and I'm gonna go in the weeds here a little bit, so I apologize.
But then we'll get back to Browns, I know.
But I will say this about Carson Wentz, about a lot of rookie quarterbacks. A lot of times when they're really good early, it's because they're relying on what they know. And remember, when we go to work every day, you and I and Owen and everybody else, this is what these defensive coordinators do. They figure out ways to, now there's film on you. And when you have film on you, there's a next step you got to take. And a lot of times quarterbacks are unable to take that next step. They're still good. All right, and they're still able to make plays, but that's what separates those guys in years 2 and 3. Because those defensive coordinators, for example, they're going to take away checkdowns. They're going to take away things. We'll use Shador as an example. What Shador did well last year, throwing the ball vertically, things like that. They're going to try to take those things away from Shador. They're going to take away what the quarterbacks do best. That's the next step for quarterbacks.
I did see, and again, people hate when I bring up numbers because they'll say context. Well, Chuck did a good job. He gave all the context. I don't think I need to say it every time that everything fell apart around Shador. I don't think I need to say it. Or Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah.
Or Joe Flacco. Like, I don't think I need to say it every time, but apparently the callers want me to say it every single time. Ross Tucker, joined the Afternoon Boys yesterday. And I thought this is something that I think I have echoed, and I'm curious what Coach Riz's studio thinks of this, because Ross was asked, do you think starting Deshaun Watson is the right thing to do at the start of the year?
If you want to feel like you've given Deshaun every opportunity, and then you want to feel like you've given Shador enough of an opportunity so that you've had a big enough sample size, I think that would be the route to go. It would feel a little bit awkward if you went the other way. If you start Shador in the opener and it's not going well, and then you put in Deshaun at that point, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. For Deshaun, it doesn't feel like there would be a super long leash. It feels like it would be, let's give him 4 or 5 games under Monken and see if there's anything there. And if there's not, then give Shador enough of a sample to really give him a chance to grow during those games, grow under Monken, and see if he gets to the point where by the end of the year, we're like, you know what? I think he can do it. I don't think we need to take a quarterback. We think Shador can be the guy.
So here's kind of my thought on this, and you tell me how dumb this is for whatever reason, because you're the actual football guy. I mean, we've already had nitty-gritty football from you earlier in the show. We've also had the general manager of the Browns reference you before on the show. Apparently, he listens to you. Maybe, you might be working with Andrew Berry one day. But my thought was that I already know if Shador starts the year, wins the job, all this excitement, and then they start 1-5 and he gets benched, I know what I'm going to hear from everybody and his fan base. I'm going to hear, well, the offensive line was just totally rebuilt. They weren't going to gel before week 1. And he's relying on first or second year pass catchers across the board. And his running backs coming off a devastating injury last year. And it was going to take him time to get. I can already hear the excuses. And a new head coach. And everything's new on offense. And I just know that's going to be said. So my thought was, all right, start Deshaun Watson. I'm assuming it's not going to end well. I know coaches are not going to do that. But me, the sports talk radio host, is going to assume it's not going to go well. And then Shador can come in and maybe these guys can gel. Poke some holes in my thought.
Well, initially it's confirmation bias, right? We assume that Deshaun is going to get hurt. We assume that Deshaun is going to play like you know what.
I assume he's going to get hurt.
That's the first thing we don't do as coaches. We're not.
Hold on. I assume he's going to get hurt, and I assume if it's at home, the fans are going to cheer. And I assume Ken Carman is going to be up there in his private booth and is going to say the fans didn't do that. You know how I can assume that? Because I saw it last year. That's exactly what happened. Anyway, go ahead.
So once again, you have to take it all in and listen. That's for me. That we don't think like that. And if you want to be successful in the game of football, you don't care what happened in the past. You don't assume injury. You don't assume people play bad. That's the first thing. Secondly, it's saying, well, let's start Deshaun and quarterbacks always get too much credit. They always get too much blame. That comes with the territory as a head coach, a coordinator, and a quarterback. So all those things, those are all true. Everything that happened to Deshaun last year, everything that happened to Shador last year, that's all true. No one cares. Figure it out. Find a way to win. Because the bottom line is that when people say, well, we're going to take a look at him for 4 or 5 games, or then we'll go to this guy. That's not doing what you should do as a football coach. What helps me win in Jacksonville? That's what you can control. All the other stuff is all noise. It's all noise.
It is a lot of noise. I'm looking at it from a just my expectation. You're right. There is confirmation bias. It's been so long, but you got to remember. I mean, for fans of the show who've been with us a long time, I've been lobbying for Deshaun Watson for a year. When stuff started to go south before the accusations, I was like, can we get in on this? Can we procure a top 5 quarterback right now? I know he's on a bad team, but we had seen him play at such a high level. I'm like, can we get in on this? If things are really going south there in Houston, little did I know at the time what was simmering behind the scenes. And even after all of that, I threw my hands up in the air. I'll admit it. I was desperate. I'm like, just go get him. I'll have to swallow it. I'll have to put up with, what's going to be said about him. In the end, 13 teams were still going after Deshaun Watson. It is a cutthroat business. I'll admit it. Ken stood tall. I'll give him credit. Ken never wanted to be in the Deshaun Watson business, even when he was good. He never wanted to be in on it. So Ken has been proven correct in all of this. This is going to go down in history as one of the worst transactions in sports, even if, by the way, Deshaun plays well this year. It's not going to matter. They're probably going to move on from him. I know what Andrew Berry said when he was with us on the air. Was he in studio? I don't remember. But he said that there could be a future with Deshaun Watson. That would be the most stunned in the history of sports in Cleveland if that was the case.
So he plays well this year.
And they sign him to a contract.
And they do. And he plays outstanding.
Dude,
looks
I would
healthy.
be stunned.
So that, once again, though, that for me, that's taking away from winning. You're saying, you know what? You won a bunch of games this year. We made a big run this year. We don't care because your past was terrible. That's not really how I think. I think, all right, all that didn't matter. It doesn't matter. Everything that everybody has said about all these guys, it means nothing coming into
Coach,
2026.
do you not talk to the fans of Cleveland? They want nothing to do. Most of them. I can't speak for everyone. People corrected Ken when he tried to speak for everyone earlier this week. Do your buddies, anybody you know who's a season ticket holder and who goes down to that stadium, do you know any of them that want Deshaun Watson to not only play, but play well enough to where we have to sign him to a contract and he's going to be here for the next 5 years? Do you know anybody?
Well, I will say this. The people that I know that know how I think, know I wouldn't care. And they probably wouldn't say anything to me anyway because they know that's not how I think. They know that I'm more about hey, whoever's playing well for me right now helps me win week 1. That's who I'm playing. Now, that doesn't make everybody happy, and I understand what everybody's thought process that they have of Deshaun Watson. That makes complete sense. That is all true. That means nothing starting tomorrow. It means absolutely nothing starting tomorrow, and that's how good it's like Taylor Green. I love Dylan Gabriel. I think Taylor Green brings more to this offense right now than Dylan Gabriel. Because for me, as much as I like Dylan Gabriel, I'm about winning. And whatever you got to do to maximize your 53-man roster and produce wins handles all this other stuff. handles the draft pick acquisitions and all this stuff that we talk about that's not about winning. Winning has to be the first thing out of everybody's mouth.
216-474-0092. Any season ticket holders want them to sign Deshaun Watson to an extension? Jim in Concord. What's going on, Jim? How are you?
Hey, how you doing?
Good morning, Jim.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm going to say I was probably one of the first callers that wanted Shedeur Sanders when he was still at Jackson State. I watched that because of Travis Hunter. I was interested in the kid that played both ways, and I saw how good Shedeur was. But this year, with the new offensive line and new pieces and parts, I almost hope Deshaun does start the first few games. Let him get his butt kicked a little bit until the line gets cohesive, and then bring in the kid.
All right, Jim. Well, thank you for the call. I mean, this is what the issue that I think. Yes, I'm assuming that when you overhaul an offensive line, I know Houston tried to do this last year. The Bears, to some extent, tried to do this, and mixed outcomes, right? Mixed results. Man, to go 5-5 out in that way is so brutally hard. Could you see Monken pulling this off to where they do go with 5 new guys and it works to start the week 1? They look like they are, a well-oiled machine. Could you see that?
Well, I'm going to say yes. And here's why. Because you brought in Warhop. And once again, I always think it's amazing when you're optimistic, you're not realistic, right? Because the only time that, especially when you criticize a team, think about the caller we just had. Jim, I appreciate the call, but think about this. Let's start Deshaun Watson so he gets his butt kicked. What good organizations think like that, right? We don't think like that as coaches. What we're thinking is, yes, we absolutely can make this line work. We absolutely have more out weapons. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen, but what is your other choice? What is your other choice to go, you know what? We are having a new offensive line. Let's start Deshaun because he's a veteran. Let's get his butt kicked. We know we're going to lose. That mentality, you don't turn that off. Your mentality has to be, this guy's playing because he's better. This guy's playing because he helps me win week 1. That's why I don't think if Shedeur is not the starter, it's okay. When he beats Deshaun out, then he's the starter. That's when he plays. Not because you're taking a look at him, because he's the guy who earned it. I saw some really impactful plays last year. That's when you go back to stats, that's why stats don't always tell the story. He made some real impact last year. He's got to be more consistent. His footwork has to get better. He has to not hold on to the ball. All those things are very true. He did make some great impact. He doesn't stink. He's not an all-pro yet. And he's not terrible. He's in the middle. And that's where the people have to understand. For me, all that's great. How do we win week 1? If you keep that in perspective, it makes a lot more sense. It's a lot easier to understand, in my opinion.
All right. Now, you were able to see some of the stuff that they were doing when they were in camp and the installs, the Todd Monken identity on offense. Does it suit one of these guys over the other, at least right now? I know it's early.
No, I think it's very good for both because it demands that you extend plays. You play within the system.
We saw Shedeur do that last year.
You play within the system. Then you have to extend plays. You have to throw the ball vertically. You have to get the ball to your best players. But the foundation of his offense starts with the run game. It starts with physicality up front. It starts with gap schemes and zone schemes. It starts with this players over plays. It's not only just for receivers and running backs and quarterbacks. This is for his offensive line. So if you look at what he did against Cleveland when he was with Ravens, Cleveland likes to get upfield. He would allow the defensive lineman to get upfield and trap them and counter and crunch. He's very, very talented at what he does as a play caller, but it starts with the run game. It starts with being 2nd and 5, because at 2nd and 5, you get to dictate as an offense coordinator what you're calling. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to win first down, just like defense is trying to do, and so he can dictate. That's where big plays come from, 2nd down and medium. That's where big plays, because you can run or pass.
I know statistically, now it's great to have you in because you actually break down the film, but statistically, Shedeur against the zone was dead last in the NFL. Now, it's a rookie, so that makes sense, right? Like you would expect, even Patrick Mahomes famously came into the league saying, I couldn't read defenses. I have no idea. I couldn't even identify the linebacker. So yet he burst onto the scene even with a year and was able to figure that stuff out over time. Today he can clearly read all of those things. So is that what he's going to see this year? If he's starting week 1, he wins the job. Do you think Monken we'll have those zone beaters. Will Shedeur be able to, in this window of a training camp, be able to change and get better against that stuff?
Well, the way I look at man versus zone, and this is a lot of quarterback coaches that are a lot smarter than me, what I've learned from is that when you face man, you know where you're going with the football. Doesn't mean it's always you make a good throw, but your feet are right because you know that's the matchup I like. That's where I'm going. That's where my feet will be right. When you face zone, what teams will do in the NFL in zone at all levels of football is they're going to play zone. They're going to take away what you do best. If you throw the curl, if you throw the dig, like for example, teams are going to take away the middle of the field from Shedeur Sanders. You're going to see a lot of robber coverage or alert coverage where they're going to have a safety who plays between the hashes just to take away slants, digs, and curls. They're going to make him throw the outside because he does that very, very well. If I see it, these really smart defensive coordinators see it. So for me, that's what zone does. Zone as a defense makes your eyes be right, but then you have to move your feet accordingly. Where in man, you know where you're going. So the feet have to match the eyes. Yes, that's the next progression for him. Can he move his feet when they make him get to his second, third progression? That's the next step.
Yeah, it's one of the criticisms of Mendoza coming out that back shoulder stuff.
A lot of RPOs, a lot of read one guy.
And
absolutely.
I thought that's what some of the best quarterbacks do is the back shoulder throw, but you can't live on just a diet of that. It's got to be obviously so much more. All right, when we come back, what am I supposed to do? My young son, his name Mason, he's 2.5 years old. What am I supposed to do with his Logan Schmidt jersey? Do you even know who Logan Schmidt is? Will this be the last time we ever mention Logan Schmidt? Next, with the investigation from our young PI, John. He is on it. He says he can explain it all. We put him to the task. Next, here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Brad Evans here to help you beat the Help kids save, budget, and build financial independence, all with Chase. That's good for kids and good for parents. Visit your local Chase branch and get started.
Accounts subject to approval. J.P. Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC.
Headline sports news every 20 minutes from the University Hospital's sports desk. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
All right, every year, people know this about me, even before I had kids. Anytime the Guardians would draft a player in the second round, I would buy the jersey and send it to their kids. It's just a nice gift. It's a thing I do. So I did this year for my kid, Mason. Logan Schmidt. Am I going to get my money back? What's going on here? What is happening that the Guardians took somebody in the second round?
And then, of course, you ran right out.
And I went out and bought the jersey. I should learn my lesson. I've done this time and time again.
You just made on the air?
Yeah. In all seriousness, they took somebody in the second round, and he's no longer on my baseball team?
No, he's on LSU's baseball team.
What happened to the game I loved? What happened to the draft that I obsess about so much year after year in baseball? That is now not happening. John, could you help me out? I don't know anything about the baseball draft. At times, I really don't know much about baseball in general. But that they took somebody and he's not on our team.
Are you hiring Detective John here?
I think right now I don't know what his hourly rate is. Do we have him on retainer?
Yes.
Okay.
Don't worry about the rate. I'll take care of that.
All right, young John, PI John, let's get to it. Help me out.
So Logan Schmidt, left-handed pitcher out of Ganesha High School in Pomona, California, actually reclassed. So he is a year younger than he should be coming out of high school. Five-star recruit, Baseball America's number 7 player in the 2026 high school class, and the number 12 overall prospect in the country. Became draft eligible, 6'4", 215 pounds, fastball up to 98, mixes in a slider and a curve as well, and above average changeup too. And then before the MLB draft, Combine was viewed as a top 20 pick with a reported $5 million signing bonus asking price. So weeks before the MLB Combine, Schmidt changed his agent. He hired Garrett Parcell of the Paragon Group, and this was really odd. Obviously, this doesn't really happen. You don't change your agent right before the draft. That's absolutely ridiculous. But in any case...
Did he bungle the draft process?
Yes, he absolutely did. Before the draft, his stock slid, not because of ability. No. When you're a 6'4", especially as a lefty, and you're throwing 98 at 17, 18 years old, oh boy, scouts are salivating over you. But his interviews did not go well, and he fell out of the top 20 range. So on July 11th, the day of the draft, the Guardians did select Schmidt 59th overall in the second round. And as I said before, he had about a $5 million asking price. And that slot value, because it's not like the NBA draft or the NFL draft where you get, this is just the signing bonus that you're going to get because you were drafted in this slot. The slot value was $1.6 million per his agent. So that's what you're expected to pay. No. He wanted way more. He wanted about $3 or $4 million. And it was going to be very tough for the Guardians, not because it's what the Dolans do. They don't spend money. You get a certain amount of money when you in the MLB draft to give as a signing bonus. And the Guardians, they spent aggressively on some other picks, including 7th rounder Savion Sims.
I also bought that jersey.
Well, that slot value in the 7th round, about $281,000. They gave him $1 million, which eats into the salary bonus pool. And the MLB draft...
Sorry, Logan.
It's so odd where...
So many players, so little money in the pool.
Yeah, well, it used to be a ton of players. It used to be 50-something rounds, if you remember back in the 80s.
And that was a lot of jerseys for me to buy.
Forget.
That's a lot of jerseys I've had to purchase over the years. John, let me cut you off here for a second. Let's get serious about this. So there were 2 players in the first 10 rounds, according to Zach Meisel, who we've had on the show. Right now on The Athletic, I'm reading the story. There were 2 players that went unsigned. So That's it. We're done. We don't get this player. It's over.
Yep. So his options, he was committed to LSU, but even
you can use your real voice now.
Yeah,
again,
even LSU, even Louisiana radio, they do not, and they cover baseball pretty hype because LSU's been in the College World Series the last couple of years. They don't even think he's going to go there because when you go play college baseball, you have to wait 3 years to get drafted. The more likely scenario is that he goes to Golden West College, which is a JUCO in Huntington Beach, and he would be allowed to re-enter the draft next year.
Is this like a Sorsby situation now? All right, so I see that Guardians GM Mike Chernoff said the front office, quote, knew it would be an uphill battle to secure Schmidt to a deal when they drafted him.
Yes, and it's very odd. Usually,
wait a second.
Yes.
This seems like a huge gamble.
It was. And usually you have these teams are communicating with the players pretty consistently. Like you kind of have a deal in place beforehand. What actually happens most of the time is they call you and say, hey, we're going to draft you here. This is probably the signing bonus you're going to get. Are you going to sign? And I've had friends who were going to get drafted and they said, especially this past year, and they said no. Because the signing bonus wasn't up to par. It's very interesting that even with as high of a pick he was picked, 59th overall, it's very interesting that they still selected him even without a deal in place. Now, there is a silver lining to all of this. The
Perfect.
Guardians will
I get my money back for the jersey that I purchased.
They will get the number 60 overall pick in next year's draft as compensation for him not signing.
Oh. So we actually get the back end of the second round. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
All right. So they thought chance worth taking. This guy should have been drafted in the first round is what they were thinking. But what a weird sport baseball is when it comes to this stuff. In basketball, when the Cavs win the lotto and LeBron James is there at number 1, we pick LeBron James, and we get to see him immediately in Summer League, and then we get to see him night 1 in the NBA. In baseball, I take Logan Schmidt, and now the negotiation starts. And even if we ink him to a deal, now we might see him again in 3 years, 4, 1.5.
Maybe never.
Maybe never. Clean up your draft, Major League Baseball. Clean up. I will never cover the baseball draft as long as I live. Now, I'll still buy the jerseys. I don't learn from my mistakes. So I'll still probably buy the jersey. What do you make of this? This is good. Do you think, just hearing this, I know this is not an area of expertise of any of us, but you're hearing the dynamics here thanks to our wide-eyed gumshoe who's pounding the pavement, making sure to leave no stone unturned. When you hear that, would you just not have drafted a guy like that if he's changing his agents and you knew it was an uphill battle, or is that a risk worth taking?
Well, first of all, that music is fantastic. It really set the tone for me to be able to listen. So that I really appreciate. I will say this. I'm going to put it on the player on this one, because if you're looking to be, and I'm not at all, that draft I have no idea about, but I will say this. If you're a pitcher and you're a young kid and you get drafted by the Guardians, and you get offered the slot was 1.7? Like, what are you doing? Like, this is like, if there's anything proven, is that the Guardians can develop pitchers more than any other sport in any other position.
Yeah, isn't that their thing?
It's like they're pitchers, right? So like that's telling me you're not valuing your future that you could have with the Guardians, even if it's not with them. It's a proven commodity how good they are at developing their guys on the mound.
Well, Keith Law had him as the 53rd ranked prospect on his top 100.
John, you said there was a pool of money, right? And we've talked about this in the past before. Do you know what the Guardians' amount was that they had total?
It was a little over $1.7 million left.
But what I'm saying is, like, what they have to spend before they spent any. Do you know that?
Oh, no, I don't. I actually don't know what
because I just
smell another investigation.
I do put a little bit on the Guardians as far as, like, if you know you've got this guy who he was rated 12th overall coming into the thing, like, yes. And you get him at 59, you probably got to try to you're not paying him 12th, obviously, but you got to find a middle ground there and maybe not pay some other guys so much money.
Tommy says, why don't you exchange that jersey you got for the kid we drafted from Cardinal High School in Middlefield, Geauga County? Home of maple syrup. We should title this segment Dirty Pool, because that's exactly what it is. I don't like it. I'm done with the draft. I'm done buying jerseys. We're done with the show. Thank you, Owen. Thank you, Jason Lloyd. Thank you, Gumshoe, P.I. John Colavita. And thank you, Coach Riz. Our first chance. We're going to do it again on Friday.
We are. Thanks for having me.
All right, Baskin and Phelps up next. We'll keep you updated on any Cavalier moves. Things are getting spicy here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
They travel, they read.